Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Welcome to 2026. We are the
Happy New
Double
Year.
Feature Podcast.
Oh, I forgot to bring the. Do you remember the last year I had the little party horn thing
Oh,
and it didn't work?
yeah.
I forgot I was going to bring that out, but like I can't be asked. It's probably not going
Uh,
to work this time. But Happy New
yeah.
Year, Happy 2026.
Yeah, we're in the big 26 now.
That's right.
Yeah, good stuff. So, yeah.
So
How's
we're
your
on
Christmas
episode.
been? How's your Christmas been?
Honestly, it was very nice. I had a little like holiday. I had a little holiday for the week, like a getaway, kind of big Airbnb kind of thing. It was
Oh,
really
yeah.
nice. I spent Christmas like it was near the seaside, so we ended up walking on the
Oh,
beach.
okay.
Christmas that was quite nice, a bit kind of unconventional. And it was quite nice. It was nice to just have a little bit of time where I didn't have to think about, work, uni, even like YouTube stuff, not really having to like properly think about it and whatnot, and just having a nice little chill out week.
Yeah.
hmm Now, how was and we'll get onto some of the things that we've watched over Christmas. But how was
Hmm.
yours?
Yeah, it was good. Christmas was good. I only got the 4 days. So I got Christmas Day, Boxing Day, the Saturday, and then the Sunday, and then it was back to work.
Ah,
But yeah, it was good times. Had a lot of fun. We
yeah,
wrapped up Five Guys at Freddy's. That's done, finito.
yeah.
That was a fun little
A way to
session we
go out.
finished with. And then yeah, so we got to figure out something new to do. But hey, we're back here now. The podcast is still going
Exactly. Yeah.
strong.
I
So
mean,
yeah.
to be fair, I did have to work New Year's Eve and day, so
Oh, okay.
uh, but it wasn't too bad. It was just a kind of like midday for both of them, so it was all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so now let's get on to episode 18, first episode of the year, where we're going to be talking about our spotlight movie, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which you're very looking forward to, I know.
Yeah.
But we've also got a fair bit of news. Obviously, plenty of films that came out over the Christmas period that we can discuss. And then for
And
part
TV as
three,
well. I got some TV for part one.
yeah, true. I think I've actually got one TV thing for part one.
Ooh.
But then in part three, we've got a bit of it's a different part three. It's a bit more. It's not like a genre. It's not like an actor's filmography of a director. We've called it thought-provoking film, so it's a bit broader. And I know you kind of struggled to like pinpoint
I managed to
what you
get
could
three in the
pick
end.
on.
I am really happy with these three.
Yeah.
I rewatched two of
What's
them
quite
over this weekend.
one of them was quite funny because I had three for me. I had three picked out, and then the other day I watched something else and I switched it round.
Yeah.
Which is like really surprising. But yeah, so let's get on with the current movie news. I'd like to start off. It's another unfortunate passing and a very disturbing passing. I don't know if you heard about this. The passing of Rob Reiner, the actor, comedy director. The passing of him and his wife. They were not passing, but they were
Oh.
murdered. You heard
Oh,
about
yeah. I
this?
forgot that was this month. I thought that was before last
Well,
episode.
to be fair, it
Whoa.
was like it was closer to the last episode than this one. To be fair,
Yeah.
so obviously we are having to kind of play a bit catch up. But yeah,
Yeah.
Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found dead in their home. It was one of the last weeks of December. Murdered. I believe their son has been charged with the murder of homicide.
I think
I
that's
believe
I think that's who it's landed on. Yeah.
I believe it is. Obviously, like don't obviously take all this with a pinch of salt. Like some things obviously might,
We
you
are
know,
not news
might,
reporters. We don't
no,
have all
but
the
that's
details.
but from what I last read, that is what the outcome was.
Yeah.
And it is. This really shook me when I read this because it was like obviously some of the other actors and directors that we've talked about who have passed, like David Lynch or Gene Hackman, they might have been a bit older. And like David Lynch, for example, we knew that he was in quite poor health, so you kind of weren't necessarily surprised by it. But Rob Reiner, he was still very much active. Like earlier in 2025, he made the This Is Spinal Tap sequel.
Oh,
He
okay.
directed that. Yeah, and it was like literally a few months after that, he's gone, and it's just it's really shocking. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
he's done a lot of great stuff like Love Acting. I know him especially as a really iconic director of like the 80s and 90s. A lot of great films like This Is Spinal Tap, of course. When Harry Met Sally, which I spotlighted way back when. Stuff like Misery, Stand By Me, A Few Good Men, The Princess Bride. He's done a lot of like classic stuff around like the 80s and 90s, and it's just a real shame. Like, obviously, thoughts go out to his friends and family, except for the son, allegedly. And also,
Yeah.
you mind if I just have a rant a little bit because when this
Go
news
on.
came out, because Rob Reiner, he's also very vocally more left wing, more progressive in that sense, and he's very vocally anti-Trump, right? And this I'm not going to go into like actual politics. This is just basic human decency, I think. Trump then puts out a post saying it's like, it was because of his Trump derangement syndrome that resulted in his son. And it's like, fuck off, frankly. Like I say, I'm not making this as like a political thing and whatnot, and it just pissed me off. And it pissed me off when people are like, oh, what about Charlie Kirk died? And it's like Rob Reiner also, despite politically disagreeing with people like Charlie Kirk, still condemned his murder. So it's just, I hate that. I really hate this culture that's manifesting. It's like, you can
Yeah.
have disagreements, but don't like celebrate people's deaths like that. Whether you're left or right, it doesn't matter. It's not something to celebrate.
Yeah, there's a really
Yeah.
nasty increase in the tribalism, really, of it all, and that
Mhm.
people from one side will disrespect the other
Yeah.
like that. It's not called for, and you are right. It's a basic
Absolutely.
human decency kind of thing.
Yeah. As I
But
say, I'm not one to like sort of make
yeah,
political points as such, but it's just basic. Yeah, as I say, it's not that.
it's
It
not
is just basic
necessary.
human decency.
It's not
Exactly. Yeah. But
necessary.
that's I. But as I say, rest in peace to Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. And yeah, that is a real tragedy that I wanted to
Yeah.
just to open with. Um, next up, sort of kind of on the opposite side, celebrating actor Dick Van Dyke turned 100 at the end of
Yes. Yes,
last
he
year.
did.
Yeah, and that was obviously Dick Van Dyke, Mary Poppins, Bye Bye Birdie. A lot of iconic movies. He's just great, a really charming actor, and like he's still very for 100 years old, still very active, like mentally, and it's just really lovely to see that. You
Yeah.
know, so in a mix of like obviously Rob Reiner's murder, it's kind of a nice thing to balance that out with. I thought that was quite sweet.
Yeah.
Next up, have you got anything else in terms of like people specifically, or
People know, no, just films and TV
ah,
stuff.
okay, we'll get onto that. So I've got a couple of things. Some movies that I want to talk about a couple of movies that I haven't yet seen, but that have come out recently. The first one, I think I might have mentioned it before, but it's the new Knives Out film, Wake Up Dead Man,
Oh
which
yeah.
got dropped on Netflix. I love the Knives Out films. The first two I've really enjoyed, and it's really nice to have this like new franchise. These standalone mystery films that to be fair, you could watch any of them and you wouldn't necessarily, they're quite standalone, and I quite like that. But it's always exciting when a new one comes out. And obviously Daniel
Okay.
Craig as Benoit, with the southern accent. He's really fun. He's really fun in the role. And I haven't watched it yet, just haven't had time to, but I will absolutely watch it, hopefully in time for the next episode so I can maybe discuss it then.
Yeah.
And there's another film that I want to briefly mention, I think it's come out. It's also dropped on Netflix. And it's in collaboration with Sean Baker of Anora fame. Obviously, off the back of Anora, one Best Picture, one Best Director. I was
Yeah.
very curious to see what he would do next. And his next project, he's not directed this film, but he wrote it, he produced it, and edited it. It's called Left-Handed Girl. It's on Netflix. And it's with a collaboration with another filmmaker. I can't pronounce their name. I believe they're an Asian director, so I'm not going to try and pronounce the name. But I know they've collaborated before, so it was for me. It's exciting to see what Sean Baker was going to do after his Best Picture win. A bit like how like Nolan after Oppenheimer, what was he going to do next? I like tracking directors of like what they do next
Mm.
after a big win like that. So that's one that I also want to check out
Okay.
at some point. Also, just a little sidebar: my Ferris Bueller mug. Very happy with that. But those are films I haven't watched. But they both dropped on Netflix. I think that's the thing. Like when things drop on streaming, it's like even though technically I do have time for them, you just kind of because they're always going to be there. You just sort of let them sit and just wait. Whereas like the cinematic release, you carve out time for. At least I do. So that was something. And then speaking of cinematic releases, I've seen a new release in the cinema, Marty Supreme, obviously starring Timothy Chalamet, directed by Josh Safdie. I was initially kind of hesitant to watch this because it's a Safdie brother film. Benny Safdie did The Smashing Machine, the one with The Rock, a few
Mm.
months ago. That got quite a lukewarm reception, and I was thinking another sports biopic from a Safdie brother this year. Do I want another one? But this then started getting really good word of mouth, and I will be saving this film for the part three.
Oh wow. Okay. So
I'm
this
going
is
to be
what
saving this
this
for
is
part
what
three.
you threw something out
Yeah,
in
well,
exchange for.
I had one
Okay.
other film in mind, and then I watched this. I think actually I kind of want to talk about this more in depth in part three,
Okay.
and I think it really because even though I only saw it a few days ago, I was recording this. It was very like thought provoking, and it was also really nice to see a big packed cinema for a film that isn't like a big budget blockbuster or franchise film. To see a film like this have a sizable audience, like when I went to see it, loads of people were there, and it was it was really cool to see. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it might have been because it was New Year's Day and people aren't working, but it's nice to see that. Yeah. Do you have anything else in terms of like some movies and
Yeah.
TVs
Oh
that
yeah,
you've
I got
watched?
stuff. I got stuff. First one is that Stranger
Cool.
Things has ended.
Yeah, I
It
didn't obviously
happened.
watch it, but yeah.
There's overall, I thought it was quite good. Season 5. Anyone comparing it to the last season of Game of Thrones is hard capping. And to those of you out there who think it's as bad as Game of Thrones, suck my fat one, in the words of Delightful Derek.
Whoa,
But
Jesus Christ.
no hate, no hate, but do not compare this. However, there's a lot of flaws in the last season, and this has
Yeah.
spurred a little bit of a stirring online about releasing the Volume 2 files. Now, you see, Volume 2 was episodes 5, 6, and 7, and it appears there's a lot of heavy evidence suggesting that they may have cut about half of the footage. Because when the release times were released months ago for all the episodes, episodes 5, 6, and 7 were all meant to be about 2 hours to 2.5 hours. They came out, and they didn't finish editing them until December, whereas Volume 1s were finished back in June, July. Now, these
Mhm.
episodes came out in December on Christmas Day, and they were about an hour each. A lot shorter than expected, but on IMDb, it still had the original run times that were intended. A lot of different interviews have gone on leading up to it, suggesting things in the show
Yeah.
that just ended up not happening. There's a lot of weird things going on here that don't add up when you look at the evidence. I have an Instagram post saved. I might link it in the description that explains all the evidence. But it's a very weird thing going on. Some people, about 400,000 people odd, have signed a petition to get the original cuts released. Because it's believed that these cuts may have been Netflix after receiving the final product from the Duffer Brothers. There's a lot of people who are coping by saying, "Oh, it's that the main villain Vecna has tampered with our memories, and that's why we don't remember scenes, and hence them not being there." I think they're
That's
reaching.
just PR.
I think they're
Like
reaching.
that's just PR speak, really. That's just
Yeah,
you know.
but overall, there's a lot of things that don't add up. So the last season wasn't perfect. Season 4 was the peak for me, but the ending, it was satisfying enough. I mean, sure, there's a few things that don't make sense, likely because of cuts, but hey, it was overall a good experience. Most of the episodes are really good. Great show. I mean, it's been running for like almost 10 years at this
10 years. This year,
Yeah.
10 years. Yeah.
So,
2016 was the first
it
season.
was
Jesus
good to
Christ.
watch. It was good to see the conclusion. It could have been better, but it wasn't awful.
Could have been worse.
But yeah, I'm curious about what if anything is going to happen with the Volume 2 files that everyone's talking about, because something is a little bit odd here. I mean, you
Who
could
knows?
say it's strange things are happening, but but no laughs for that one. But
I'll give you it's a good one.
on the
Cool.
movie front, a new Amazon Prime original dropped that I watched. However, it does not star our dear friend John Cena.
God damn.
And that said, actually, I will pivot to John Cena in a moment. But first of all, let's talk about the movie. The movie, and this must be the first movie I've seen by this guy in a while, but Kevin James did a new movie. I mean, you know me, I love Kevin James films.
Yeah.
And
I'm trying to think. What was the last thing that he did?
it's been a while.
Yeah,
I
what
remember
was
he did some TV shows back in the late 2010s, but I don't remember the last time he did a movie. But
I can't remember.
so new movie, Playdate. It's about Kevin James plays his father Brian, who takes his son on a playdate with another father and son, which goes horribly awry when some mercenaries start hunting him down. It's an action comedy, really fun, really enjoyed it. However, it feels like the role of the other dad, Jeff, was written for John Cena, but he didn't do it. It feels so John Cena coded. And,
Yeah.
it's an Amazon Prime original. So, but, overall, really great movie. Did enjoy it. A solid 3.5 out of 5 for me. I've started reviewing movies on Letterboxd as I watch them. So I wrote the review for that one yesterday or today. But yeah, solid movie. But now we'll pivot to John Cena real quick. John Cena had his last wrestling match this
Of
month
course, we
gone in December.
of course we mentioned it. We mentioned it last time, but it's
Yeah,
actually happened
it's
since.
happened, and my God, it was emotional.
I remember you messaging me when you were watching it. Like you getting really emotional now.
I was very drunk. They had this welcome event at this ski resort we went to, and they had free
Yeah.
drinks, and so I had about 40 euros worth of free rosé wine.
Fucking hell. Oh my
So I was
God.
very drunk, but
God,
but
man.
yeah, but
Do you need a
yeah.
liver transplant after that?
Nah, don't worry.
Probably.
Our family has a very good tolerance for alcohol. We've got Burton
I
blood.
don't.
We're good. But
For true.
it's yeah. So the final match happened. John Cena tapped out, and it was a very emotional thing. And it was lovely to have John Cena's retirement tour. It's been a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of things that were good about it, a lot of things that were god awful about it. But in the end, it got really nice towards the end. He went back to being a good guy. He put on some great flashy matches. And ultimately, yeah, he taps out in his last match. And they gave him a really nice emotional send off with a video package of everything that he'd done in his career. It's just, the guy just seems like one of the nicest guys ever. And hopefully, we're going to see more of him in acting now. I think he's still got a lot to do with DC coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember at the time just thinking I want to just talk about this for a brief moment because he's a pop culture icon at this point. Everyone knows who
He's an
John
I
Cena is.
he's like a staple of the podcast, like Nick Cage,
Yeah,
like
he kind of
Elvis.
is.
He's one of like our staples of the podcast at this
Yeah,
stage.
but so all the best for his future career in Hollywood and
Absolutely.
doing what he's doing. And after that, I've
Keep being
got
awesome.
yeah, I've got I think one other thing. I was gonna one other movie maybe. Did I have some more?
Yeah.
I had some more movies. I had to talk about some movies. I'm gonna pull up my letterbox because you can now find me on
Yeah, you
letterbox.
have got Letterboxd.
I
After
finally have
pestering him
it,
for God knows how long, he caved in after I pestered him for that long.
and I've already watched 6 movies this year, and it is January 4th.
I've watched one, and that was my Supreme.
Yeah, but I'll pull up my list here because I've watched a few movies. I got 2 movies for Christmas. One is the documentary of Metallica making their 2003 album. I haven't watched it yet. Will do soon. The other was a Metallica concert movie that has a bit of a plot with it too. That was really fun. That was enjoyable. I got for my birthday, which I only now watched over Christmas season. I got Nick Cage's Christmas film Trapped in Paradise. That was
Oh
really
yeah,
fun. It's about these 3 brothers who go to a small town called Paradise to rob their really low security bank of just over 250,000. But then they really struggle to leave Paradise. And everyone there is overbearingly nice, and it is quite funny that these 3 guilty people are just trying to find a way to just get out of there, and they can't. But it's good
that'd
comedy.
be fun.
It's Nick Cage, John Lovitz, and
And Dana
Dana
Carvey.
Carvey. Yeah, Dana Carvey.
From Wayne's World.
Yes, those
Oh,
3.
sweet.
But yeah, great movie. I also watched a Sky original Christmas film called Tinseltown.
I've
Um,
seen this advertised to shit on
yeah,
at the minute. Yeah, Kiefer Sutherland,
yeah,
isn't it? Any?
it was slightly better than I expected. Kiefer definitely carries it, but it's quite a nice little film. Like I said, Kiefer Sutherland, he's willing to do just about anything with the role. Really gives it a go. It's got a lovely little
Yeah.
message about how important pantomime and theater is, which is quite kind of nice to see from being something of a
Mm.
theater goer like we are.
It definitely is like more British sort of
Oh yeah,
thing from the premise and whatnot. And to be fair, I did actually also watch a panto at the Grand in Warburg, Sleeping Beauty.
yeah.
Very fun stuff.
It's
But it is definitely more of like a British sort of Christmas tradition. I think
oh
because
yeah.
Keith Sutherland, he's like an American actor in the film, isn't he? Is that right?
Yeah, he's like this kind of washed up American actor who's done a few too many action sequels.
Yeah.
But
I can't wait. I can't wait. Coming 2027 or 2026, never at the Wolverhampton Grand Theatre, Liam Neeson in Snow White. I want to see that. I want to see him.
but yeah, but yeah, that was all right. That's about all I've got on the part 1 front.
I did a
Yeah,
couple more. I did a couple more like smaller things and whatnot.
yeah.
One couple of like just bits of news and like some trailers and whatnot. So a little bit of news that I thought was kind of interesting. We're obviously heading to award season now,
Oh
very
yeah.
quickly, and this came out actually that the Oscars, it's to the Oscars, that from 2029 onwards are set to stream on YouTube instead of a telecast,
Oh, okay.
which which I thought was quite interesting. And obviously, we're going to kind of cover the Oscars, each year, which is quite fun.
Yes.
But it was kind of interesting that it is an indication of how like linear TV, how a lot of again another kind of indication of like the sort of digital age, like streaming is overtaking like linear TV, the theatrical experience. It's taken over, you know, because the ratings have been kind of on a downward trend for the Oscars, but it happened for everything. Like TV ratings are like not what they once were because well the internet exists and streaming exists, so it's natural
Yeah.
they're gonna plummet a little bit. And the other thing I wanted to mention briefly is we've had a few new trailers for some 2026 movies, some that I imagine we're going to be spotlighting these. One of them, I know we will because I will make you spotlight it, okay? The Odyssey trailer came out.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't worry.
Uh,
Don't worry,
I
yeah.
feel like I owe you after this episode, but
You do. You
oh my
do.
God.
You do. That's a tease for what's to come. But yeah, the Odyssey trailer came out. That looked really good. Obviously, like it looks fantastic, and it's great seeing all these actors. And that coming in July this year, so that'll be quite exciting. And then
Yeah.
also the teaser for Avengers: Doomsday
Yes, a few of
with
those
Captain
have
America.
dropped. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the one with Steve Rogers, and
I haven't watched any of
it,
them yet, but I've heard that Steve
you're
Rogers is
you're
coming
aware.
back. Yeah,
Okay,
I knew it happened. I just haven't watched it yet.
okay,
But
okay. It's very simple because it's like basically the trailer is like at his house that he retired to in Endgame, and it's like he gets the shield back out, and it's like because I was kind of I wasn't quite cryptic as well as a teaser, but it was kind of like what's going on? That looks familiar. That's Cap's house, isn't it? And then
yeah,
Chris Evans is there, and again, it's just another because the Doomsday and Secret War seem to be like stuffing every bloody Marvel character from the past 25 odd years into this thing, and it feels it's like the RDJ as Doctor Doom thing. It just feels like okay, bringing him back, bringing everyone back. It's just like can they not end? Like, can they not have like just a definitive ending? I don't just mean like, oh, when will it end? But just like, stories need to have an ending. Like, can you know when to put the full stop on? And it seems like Marvel just don't.
I think Secret Wars is that full
Mm.
stop.
Hopefully, but if it's not, then I'm going to be.
He's
Oh,
gonna do something about it. He's gonna storm Hollywood. He's gonna storm the Marvel building with a picket sign, and then he's gonna be like, "Hey, stop it now! We don't want this."
it'll be like the ending of Halloween 3 when the guy's like, um, yeah, but it's just like, come on, like, is there nothing else that we can do? But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I will. I think we will watch. We'll watch Avengers: Doomsday. We'll
Oh
see
yeah,
because after the Marvel lineup from last year, that actually did impress me. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a chance, but I ain't holding out hope that it's going to be amazing, frankly.
I don't think there's
But
that many
I'll
Marvel films coming this year. I think is there a new Spider-Man,
because
and then
there's obviously
Avengers.
Doomsday's like December, and then I think Spider-Man is like around July August time. Spider-Man
Yeah,
Brand New Day, the fourth Tom Holland one. But I think that's it though.
that's
Um,
good. It's better than when they were trying to pump out like five in a year or some stupid.
Yeah, but this is a bit more manageable, and obviously the TV shows and all.
Oh
But
God, yeah.
yeah. But I mean, to be fair, like in terms of like, comic movies, obviously there's those two. There's also the new Supergirl film
Yes.
for DC as well. That's coming out, I think June. I think that's coming out. Could be
Somewhere in
wrong.
the
I
summer.
could be
It's going to
wrong.
be a summer blockbuster, so sometime
Yeah,
around then.
I could be wrong, but yeah, that'll That's all I think I can. That's all I can think of in terms of like
Yeah.
superhero films this year. A bit more manageable than it was a few years ago, so that's
Yes.
nice.
I've noticed that they don't do anywhere near as much TV shows for Marvel as they used to, and I think that's a good thing.
Good,
That
good.
clearly they were
Because
doing
I'm,
too much and they were spreading too thin and just pumping stuff out. But now they're
yeah,
kind
man,
of focused
no.
on let's make a few good things. Because last
Quality
year
over
we had
quantity
some
is
really
always,
good movies. Fantastic Four was
yeah.
really good. Superman was really good. What were the other ones
Thunderbolts,
last year? Thunderbolts was really
Thunderbolts, yeah.
good. I mean,
I mean, obviously,
Captain
yeah,
America
just
was kind of left over.
yeah, you do stinkers, but they're always, the quality over quantity. I think I could feel that last year, so I was happy with that. So
Peacemaker
I'll give
was
it a shot.
Peakmaker. He's peak maker. But
God damn it. That's
let's
funny. But that's all I've got for part one
yeah,
in
same.
terms of the
Let's
current
crack on
movie
with part
news.
two because this is gonna be a meaty one.
Because I fight to the death.
They want me to fight the chicken? Chicken jockey.
Actually, that reminds me. I just want a brief little before we get onto that. The Panto, obviously, that I watched. Obviously, with Pantos, it's very much like a roundup of like what's popular in culture this year. So they did Lava Chicken. They actually did.
Yeah.
And they had people dressed as like chickens guarding like the villain's lair, right? Taking the good guys away. And that in the finale, they had like a mega mix of all the characters singing a song, and Aurora, because it was Sleeping Beauty, the Panto was, she sang Golden, obviously from K-pop,
Okay, yeah.
and to my chagrin, they did 6-7.
Oh my God.
I was thrilled at that, as you know, I was thrilled at that.
After you unwillingly did it in the bonus episode we did for
God,
Christmas.
I'm not letting that down. But I think the funny thing was that because the sort of Buttons character, who's kind of like the one who always talks to the audience, he was the one doing it and whatnot. And obviously the kids are like, oh, God, I know that meme.
Yeah,
But then eventually, like the kids got a bit out of control and they kept doing it, and they're like, Jesus Christ, someone give him some cowpole.
that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, they were that like excited when the 6-7 thing came on, and it was just like, God damn it. But it is what it is. There's always going to be generations of brain rot. Um,
E.
but yeah. Anyway, that's all for part one. Now it's time for Five Nights at
Are
Freddy's
you ready for
2.
Freddy?
Not really, no.
On to part two. Today we're going to be discussing Five Nights at Freddy's. I
2?
come, one and two, but I can't
Oh
believe we're
yeah.
at a point now where I love Five Nights at Freddy's. Because if you'd asked me a decade ago about it, I hated Five Nights at Freddy's, couldn't stand it. But now I'm a really big fan of the games. The movies last
So
suck,
maybe,
but
so maybe in like 10 years' time, I'll finally be a fan of them.
maybe. But
That's a real maybe, yeah.
you
But
gotta play the
but
games.
yes,
Just play the games. About.
yeah,
I'll
yeah, I
make
might
you
have
play them
to.
someday. It'll be funny. It'll be funny content.
I wouldn't oppose to it, really. I'm
I'd
just not
love
a
to
big
do that
gamer.
actually. I'd love to get you to play the games with us so I could see how you handle them.
I wouldn't be opposed to that. But yeah, these movies. So obviously, we've got Five Nights at Freddy's 2. We also do have the first film from 2023. Is that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's a couple of years ago.
Obviously,
Um, I, I, wa- I watched it
we
for the first
briefly
time.
discussed the Five Nights at Freddy's Haunted House on our Halloween Horror Nights bonus
Yeah.
episode. Obviously, the animatronics there from based on the movie and whatever. But yes,
Mm.
I watched the first movie back in 2023, and you decided on a whim to watch it. Watch it recently.
Yeah, well, because we're doing this, so I was like, I had to watch the first one. For me, like brief summary of the first one, brief opinion on it. It's a very standard video game movie, like the whole thing of it. The first one is just a bit mediocre, a bit generic, just to set up the world and the lords and
Yeah.
newcomers and whatnot. For me, it wasn't awful. I didn't actually despise it. It just is a bit of a generic horror movie. I like a couple of things. I like the animatronics. I like
Oh, the
Matthew Lillard in it.
animatronics
That
are
was quite
great. The
yeah,
animatronics
and
in both films are absolutely amazing.
mhm.
It's
That's true. And I say Matthew Lillard was quite fun to see in the
yes.
film as well. But overall, I just found it the first one just a bit boring and a bit kind of Just I didn't really have many strong feelings on it. A bit
Mm,
mediocre, really. Um, and obviously,
yeah.
then we get Five Nights at Freddy's 2. So a lot of the same cast and crew come back for this one, and obviously it kind of expands on the world, and obviously it has a lot more lore in it, which is going to be complete gibberish to me as a non-fan. And I kind of want to make that clear. Is that obviously you're coming at it from like a fan perspective. I'm very much not. I'm coming at it as how does it work as a film? Can I still get anything out of it purely as a film? As like a horror kind of comedy film and whatnot. And obviously, I'd like to say that I know this is very much aimed more towards the fans. It's kind of going in that direction. And I get, obviously, if you're a fan of the series, that's absolutely valid. I'm not going to take that enjoyment away from you. Um, with all that said and done, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a film I absolutely fucking despise the whole way through, and is one of the worst cinema experiences I've ever had in my life. So
It's
yeah,
shit, but it's our shit. It's our
that's
shit.
that's what I say about Birmingham.
No, I'm defending FNAF 2. I'm not defending Birmingham with my life.
Oh Jesus! But yeah, um, yeah. By far and away the worst film from 2025 that I saw. Worse than Minecraft by country mile for me.
Oh my God.
Minecraft was a, Minecraft I at least enjoyed in an ironic sense. This I found just boring, poorly made, and genuinely unpleasant at points. And I will give it. I will also say as well, I had a pretty shitty summer experience. That there were a bunch of like teenagers. I don't know how much. I don't know how much of the film was kind of like a bit Minecraft-esque, where it was like people kind of like fans knew the meme lines or whatever. I didn't really know. So, but they just wouldn't shut up. They kept yelling, shouting. But I think some of the stuff wasn't stuff that was like meme. They were like making like semen jokes about the young kid characters. Like, whoa, whoa, that's just fucking disgusting. Like, fuck off.
Right. The FNAF fan base do get a little quirky at night, but
Let's put it mildly. I do
yeah.
feel like a grumpy old man. I do feel like a grumpy old man.
Our theater was quite all right actually. We went to a small local theater in Cannock for it, and everyone was pretty
Oh,
well
that one.
behaved. Cannock Theater,
The picture. The picture house.
maybe?
Oh, I think I know what you mean. I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's but yeah, that was quite chill. You know, the audience were interactive with the film. They laughed. They were surprised at certain things, but there's nothing
Mm.
ridiculous. But I have seen a
Like
lot of the
that.
ridiculous stuff online. That's it. Some of it's really cool. Like I've seen some people in like full-on Freddy Fazbear costumes come into the
That
theater.
that that's cool.
That's kind of
I
cool.
don't
But
I don't got a problem with that. That's fine. But like the stuff that they were going like, geez, like that definitely wasn't like
it's
I
yeah,
don't need to hear about that, mate. You know,
overall so I'll quick view over the two movies. First movie I thought was mid. It was all right. Again,
we're kind of on
it
that
sets
same
the
page with
world.
that.
You know. Second
Yeah.
movie, I really enjoyed it. I really liked it from lore perspective. I really like the stuff with the marionette and Charlotte Emily and that stuff. That's very present in the in the games. Is that
Mhm.
but in the games, Charlotte dies outside the pizzeria and is William's first murder victim, and she becomes the puppet. It's not quite the same as in the movie where she's for some reason she's asking all these parents for help and they're just neglecting her. That really didn't make much sense, and that definitely wasn't in the games. But
And can I just put that example that you gave is one of the reasons I found it really unpleasant. The characters were horrible for no reason. Like, the parents, like this kid, like
mm,
I don't know what it is, right? And I don't mind dark things in a film. I don't mind like kind of really pushing the boundary stuff in films. I'm okay with that. But this just felt unpleasant. Like this kid is asking for help, and the parents are just ignoring her. It doesn't feel realistic or grounded in the slightest. It's like that is not how that would go in any scenario and whatnot. And it also extends for me with the teacher character, who is always at every corner trying to get some kind of comeuppance against Abby. You know, deliberately trying to like destroy her science first shit, and it's like everything that they do, it basically demonizes these characters. They're not characters. They're just they're just meat bags to get killed off. And I know a lot of horror films do that, but very rarely have I felt this pissed off about characters. Like, actually, I want these fuckers to die because I hate them.
yeah,
And
the
it just felt really. It was for me. I think the teacher character because he's in quite a lot of the film. I think that's why it felt quite pervasive because it was throughout so much of it. That unpleasant feeling. I think I just felt that throughout a lot of it because of him, for example.
yeah.
But
I get why they did
but
the
yeah.
thing with the parents trying to like with the scene with Charlotte and the parents because they wanted to make the marionette the kind of the main villain of the movie. I don't
Hmm.
necessarily like that arc as much because the marionette's not a very bad character in the games. Yeah, she's a character that can kill you in the second game, but the idea is that the marionette gives life to the other animatronics in the game and is almost a force of good in some senses. They've kind of taken some interesting turn. They've said, let's just dumb it down, let's just make her a villain, and but I feel they took some interesting turns with her. The idea of her having control over the toy animatronics. Now, in the games, the toy animatronics exist. They are villains.
Mm.
We have no explanation for why they are active because they're not possessed by kids, the toy ones, And so the idea that the puppet controls and actually, for once, the movies have actually made something about the games clearer, which amazed me because I didn't think they'd ever do that. But because all we knew in the games was that they run off of some sort of criminal database and they must think the security guard's a bad guy. But we just kind of have to just say, oh yeah, it is what it is. But now if it's the puppet, it makes sense. But and then the Wizards, they're the ones who are in the back room who kind of attack Michael in that one scene in the office. They are in the second game as well, and they're supposed to be the ones from the first movie, but because FNAF 2, the game, is a prequel, whereas FNAF 2 here is a sequel, so they're separate entities. So you see what I mean, that they're taking lore, throwing it, and catching what they can. Because another example, Vanessa in the games, not an Afton. Vanessa is a random security guard in the year 2050 something. They just kind of went, okay, let's just put her in. Michael Afton. Michael Afton is the main protagonist of the game series, but here he's a villain. So they really just, they throw it all up, they catch what they can, and say, yep, let's do something new. Some of it lands, some of it doesn't. Like the whole thing with Vanessa constantly lying about all these evil relatives she has.
Yeah,
But,
well, again, yeah.
And then Mike just kicks her out, and it's like, you know what, valid, Mike. First smart thing you've done in a while. Because really, Michael should have just said to Abby, no, you're not going to go meet those murderous robots. You're just going to stay home. They're not your friends. But, but not every move is smart in the film. But I like it a lot visually. I love the designs, the animatronics. I love, they're so accurate visually between the games and the movies. Especially the withered ones in the office. They're like shot for shot. However, I would also like to shout out a scene early on in which a plush Freddy toy makes a sound like horror, 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 because that scene saved me from a punishment from my friends, because we had to bet on things that were going to happen in the movie, and that sound clip is a very famous meme in the FNAF community, and I said that is going to be in the movie in some degree, and because it was. I was fine, but the others were cooked because they're all the things they said were going to happen didn't happen. So, brilliant scene.
Or as we would go.
But nonetheless, I did end up playing that punishment game anyway, which was Bean Boozled. If you're familiar with that.
Oh God, yeah.
I haven't
played that in years.
I ate fucking barf. It was
ate barf
gnarly.
Watching this movie.
But
it's disgusting.
I
rotten egg
the
one's the
movie.
worst.
However, the ending. Oh my god, I laughed so much. It was so stupid.
Can we go to the ending a bit afterwards? Because I've got a few points that I want to kind of cram in. But we'll come to the ending. Don't worry.
Because that's it was so funny. Like I couldn't take it seriously at all. It was fucking Avengers Endgame.
God.
Okay, but yeah, we'll rewind.
Like you, I did. Yeah, I did have a few points. I just kind of building off a few things that you've said. Obviously, like in terms of like nitty gritty lore stuff, I don't have much in the way of saying it because I don't play the games, so it's not really my wheelhouse. But in terms of like, I kind of wanted to comment on what you were saying about like adapting, how you kind of very much they took the approach of throwing everything in the air, seeing what they caught, and just there you go, and kind of a very loose adaptation. And to be honest, I don't necessarily mind that. You can definitely sort of mine elements and kind of cherry pick certain things that you want to do, you want to take from the games. It's the same as like when you adapt like a book from, you adapt a book to a film. You cherry pick maybe a character, but maybe you don't, follow through with it. Like the Bond films, for example, like some of those are very loose adaptations. Like there's some films like Spy Love Me and Moonraker that are like they basically just take the title and just do their own story with it. So it's like, I don't have a problem with that, but I think your kind of analogy of like throwing everything in the air, seeing what they caught, throwing it at the screen, whatever sticks. Perfect analogy, because it did definitely feel quite haphazardly done and kind of just like, just a bit schizophrenic storytelling there, just like, well, we'll do whatever.
The problem is it's not coherent with half the stuff that they caught, and they haven't added enough original stuff that quantifies making the original footprint better. I think if you're going to adapt something and you're going to add your own flavor in, it should be to make it better and elevate it.
Yeah.
Whereas they've just gone, we'll take this, we'll take this. Circus Baby's in the closet for some reason. That was really cool in the dream sequence. There was a large animatronic in the closet. There was like a clown with a dress. Clown. That's Circus Baby from the fifth game. That was kind of a cool little Easter egg. But there was no reason for it to be there really. But you know, it was just a cool thing. But it's like, okay, sure, we're gonna pop this here. The whole dream sequence was interesting, but at the same time, why was William Afton hitting the Hans Gruber death fall off of the stairs? But
I don't know.
I have theories about why they put Circus Baby in that scene. But hey, you know, that's for another day. But hey, that's just
Yeah.
a theory, a game
That film
theory.
theory.
Because Matt
Film
Pat
and
was
game
in this
theory.
movie. Matt Pat was Toy Bonnie. You can't tell it's
Yeah, and
him.
I couldn't tell. Yeah, I genuinely, I was trying to look out for Matt Pack, and it was like, where is he? Where is he?
Yeah.
I knew it was the voice of Toy Bonnie, but like, I couldn't tell. I really couldn't tell. I did want to talk about some of the, kind of, I guess, like filmmaking in the film, and some like the more technical things, like the filmmaking, the acting, and whatnot, all this sort of stuff. It was really noticeably bad for me. I don't know why, but like the first film, obviously the first film, you weren't going to win any Oscars for the acting, but it was passable. Like it was fine. You know, a little bit was stilted, but just fine. This film, I don't know what the fuck happened, but even cast members from the previous film, especially Abby, and I don't like to dig on child actors too much, but considering that I thought in the first film she was passable, here her acting really stuck out as being what I don't know what was going on, but it really was like that's noticeably bad. That is, and again, that goes for a lot of the cast, to be honest. If I'm honest, and then filmmaking wise, like as I said, the animatronics do look great, and I think that I will give them that. That's probably the only positive I really have is that the animatronics are very good, and there are a couple of good like scares. I like the one where there's one kill from like a POV of a camera, and it shows that the camera like the guy gets killed and the camera like shatters. I don't know if you remember that one. Based on your face, I'm gathering not.
Trying to remember.
Just sort of stuck out to me in a good way. But I tell you what did stuck out to me in a bad
Oh,
way.
oh
Do you-
yeah. The guy gets like pulled apart or something by Mango.
yeah,
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 and the
and then I think
camera
like one of his,
falls. You can see like a few of
and
the
then one of
body
his,
parts.
yeah,
Yeah, that was cool.
that was pretty good. There's the occasional moment there that I think are pretty effective. But yeah, I think so. I said something else that really stuck out to me was like the overall like filmmaking, like the direction and editing was just really choppy and again really bad. And there's something really random, a really random point, but you might not be familiar with. But do you know what the 180-degree rule is in filmmaking?
Oof. I've heard of
Have
it,
you
and I
heard of it?
think you've
Yeah,
explained it before, but I don't
I mean,
remember.
basically, the 180-degree rule, it's a cinematography rule where basically if you're in a space and whatnot and you're filming a scene, you don't go beyond 180 degrees, right?
Right.
Um, So, say there's like a chase scene and you've got a character going from left to right, you then show the person chasing them going from left to right as well. You don't just cut to random parts of the scene because then the audience can't follow the geography of it. This film breaks that rule many times, and it was genuinely a struggle at points to track the geography and like where his characters are coming from. I genuinely couldn't track it. And the thing is, that's one of those things that maybe if sometimes it can be a stylistic choice if trying to like actively disorientate the audience and it's an active choice. But this didn't feel like that. Even just basic scenes like at the science fair, there were points I couldn't track where we were in a scene. And if I note that's something like 180-degree rule, that's something that you shouldn't notice as an audience. I shouldn't have to like think, oh, that was well done. It's just like you just kind of accept it because that's part of filmmaking. The tricks that you do with the camera and with the edit and whatnot, make it flow in a way that you don't really question the kind of construction of it. This I did, and that's bad. Like even the first film, which again, not going to win any Oscars for its technical stuff, but it was competently made. Like it was well shot. It wasn't like spectacular. I wouldn't say it was particularly inspired, but it worked. It functioned well. I wasn't picking apart these things. This film I was, and I was like, what happened? Because I say a lot of the same cast and crew, so I'm really confused of what happened.
Mm.
But that's I say from a kind of technical filmmaking kind of point of view.
Yeah, I can't pretend to know
Yeah.
that side of it as well.
It's,
But
I say, like likewise, I can't pretend to know all the FNAF lore stuff. So that's why I like that we've provided the different perspectives. But I say these are usually things that even in like films that maybe don't like, the films that are just kind of competently made, you know, the things
Yeah.
that you just kind of take for granted, really, that you don't necessarily think about as such. But this I did, and I was like, God damn it.
What throws me off so much with these movies is the name of the writer. The writer is Scott Cawthon, the writer of the games. He's his own lore, and he's writing this and somehow juggling things so uh inadequately.
He's the only writer as well.
Exactly. He's the only writer. If it was someone else adapting it and writing a not so great adaptation, okay, but the guy who
Fair enough.
invented the series and made about 75% of the lore, because granted, about 25% of the lore is just fan generated. He's
Okay.
forgotten a lot of it as well, because
Yeah.
basically the point of the games is that we were supposed to kind of figure it out ourselves and put the pieces.
Fair enough.
But yeah, about 75% of the lore, this guy's responsible for, and he's the sole writer on these movies, and yet this is what we're getting. I don't know. I feel
How
like I'd expect
bizarre.
a bit more from the person who gave us the games, because the game
Yeah.
lore is up to a certain point. The game lore is pristine. It's brilliant. It's very intricately simple in a way. With the
Hmm.
way it works, there's so much mystery in it, and then you get to the end of the sixth game, and you have like this perfect ending to the series. And then they kept going, and they shouldn't have. But like the first six in isolation is a really well written story that answers a good amount of questions. Not all of them has a good amount of suspense. It's a great masterclass in writing horror. But then you get to the movies, and it's
Hmm.
like this is the same writer, and there's no one else meddling with the script. Doesn't add.
Yeah, it's a
But
bit. It's piranha. Anyway, do you want to go talk about the ending now?
I'm just gonna have a little rant one more time though
Go on.
about one thing. I
Go
find
for
it
it.
interesting they decided to try and spin Michael Afton as a villain. Because, like I mentioned earlier, in the games, he's the main character. But not only that, but in the games, Michael Afton, Mike Schmidt, same person. Mike Schmidt is a
Yeah,
fake name that Michael Afton uses in the first game for his job.
to be fair, I kind of looked up stuff like that, and it did confuse me as well. I was like, "Hang on, I'm confused who's who here." So
Oh boy, okay.
it
If you
confused
look
me as
up
well.
FNAF stuff, it is a deep rabbit hole. It is confusing. It takes
I may
hours to
have to,
understand.
I may have to avoid that then.
I'm still trying to piece it together, and I have been working on this for about 2 years trying to understand it. I'm still putting the pieces together, but yeah. Let's get on to the ending because the ending was absolute cinema. It
That
was one
was
of the funniest scenes, ironically, that I have seen in a long time. It was so overdramatic and stupid. Oh my god.
so so as well, right? From a like structure point of view, it's like it just ends. There's no because like, there should be like about 20, 30 minutes left of the movie, but it just ends.
Yeah.
Just ends. Why? What's that about? Did they just forget to put that? Did they just forget to edit the last 30 minutes of the movie or something?
I don't know, but
Yeah, it's dramatic, overdone. It's stupid. It's really stupid, and it's like, why? Why is that? Why do you end a movie like that?
now I think they took a
It's
page from
so
the
bad.
second novel of the series with the ending. In the second novel, there are a type of animatronics called Twisted Ones, who are villains in this book. And in the book, the original four characters, as seen in the movie, come to
Mm.
help defeat the Twisted Ones. So I think they took a page out of that book to put in here. Uh, as to why, I don't know, but it was really funny. It felt like Avengers Endgame. It was so stupid, and it looked so goofy.
It looked shit as well. Yeah,
It looked
it was
so
just
goofy.
terrible. It was an absolute joke, and I think I just sat there just because I'd heard. To be fair, I'd heard that the ending was really bad, and I didn't want to spoil it because like I knew something was going to be up, but I was like, I didn't anticipate what it was, and I just sat there just like
I was
I give
laughing.
up.
I was genuinely laughing.
I was so pissed off. I just felt like I was like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
I just sat there and just
I refer to it as the Fast Force ending, where they, the Fast Force come in and save the day. But I was
yeah.
laughing for the whole thing. It was so stupid. But I did find interesting the very ending of the marionette possessing Vanessa, because now we've got the marionette still in play as a villain. And I'm going to link this
Mhm.
back a little bit to my theory. In the fifth game, it is known fact that one of William Afton's daughters, Elizabeth, is killed by the clown baby we saw in the closet earlier, Circus Baby.
Yeah.
Elizabeth's killed by this animatronic and becomes that animatronic, who's the villain of the fifth game. I think they're going to do
Mhm.
that with Vanessa. I think Vanessa is going to get killed and become Circus Baby. Now, this leads up to a little bit of an ending similar to FNAF 6, in which you've got William Afton, Yellow Rabbit, Spring Bonnie, Springtrap, Circus Baby imply the puppet, who in the game is in another animatronic called
Mhm.
Lefty, but in this movie may possibly be in Circus Baby. And then we've got Michael Afton running around who can kind of represent the Freddy variant from the sixth game. And they're all going to die in a fire. That is my prediction. Because every like third FNAF game ends in a fire for some reason.
I'm not being funny. You lost me there. I was like,
Yeah, but
what's he on?
the viewers will know.
What's going?
I've got a good viewer base
Yeah,
of people who watch my FNAF
enough.
content who might
Yeah,
know. But
fair enough. Fair
those who
enough. But
know, that's but
it's
I think
gibberish to
there's
me.
an interesting open door with Vanessa being the puppet now. But did you stay for the post-credit scene?
What do you think? I was out of there as soon as the credits rolled. Do you think I was going to say no, no?
Oh, shame. Post-credit scene was hype. So the post-credit scene leads into the events of like in the third game. In the third game, you're working at basically a horror attraction based on FNAF. And on the phone, there's this guy who tells you that they found like a prop for the haunted house.
Yeah.
Now, the scene in the movie is a bunch of people exploring the original FNAF pizzeria, not the original, not the one with the four regular animatronics in, and they find
Mhm.
the back room that the Yellow Rabbit is kept in. Matthew Lillard, William Afton, the Yellow Rabbit. He's now
Mhm.
Springtrap. He's the main villain of the third game, and it's them finding him to put into their horror attraction, and so it's like a
Wait,
perfect replication there.
hang on. Did I stay for the post credit scene?
Yeah, the guys come in from the rain and they say they found something in the back room and they put a bag over him, but you can kind of see the rabbit's one lit up eye through the bag. Oh my god, it was so cool.
I genuinely can't remember at this point. I genuinely can't remember.
Either way,
I
I
feel
love that
like
scene because Springtrap is low-key
I
just my
might have
favorite
done.
character. But and I love the FNAF 3 game, it's my favorite game of the series.
Yeah.
It was really cool to have them kind of replicate that scene in a way, because that scene's only given to us audibly in the game, not visually.
Yeah.
And then to see Springtrap, I mean, the suit's not perfect yet, but it was just really, really cool. I'm really excited for the third movie. Has a lot of potential if they actually write a good script.
You can say about any film, yeah. If it has a good script, then it can be good.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. But overall, there's not much more for me to say on the FNAF movies. They're not as good as the games. The second movie for me was a step up, mostly just because it wasn't
It was a
boring.
step down for me.
There
I
was
mean,
more
fair enough,
going
fair
on.
enough.
Because the first one was just really boring to me. The
Yeah,
second
fair
one, there
enough.
was more going on. I watched the first one when I wasn't a fan.
Mhm.
I watched this one as a fan, so it's very different experiences.
That's fair. I mean, the thing is, usually I've been the camp of saying that I take a bad movie over a boring movie, but the thing is, FNAF 2 actively pissed me off and was like really actively pissed me off in a very unpleasant way that I would take the first one over it personally. But I think that's kind of interesting because as we kind of discussed about video game movies, the first one is always kind of like a bit mediocre, bang average to kind of set the tone and
Mm.
then leave a split off and whatnot. So if you're a fan of the game, you'll probably like it more. If you're not, you'll probably like it less. Because I feel like the FNAF 2 is kind of alienating for anybody outside of that,
To be fair, not all
which
the
is
fans are happy either.
I've gathered. I mean, I don't think I've met anybody who thinks the ending is unironically good,
It's not. It's not. I love the ending for how goofy it is. It's not
but it's a
good.
shit end. Yeah. So wrap up for FNAF 2.
um, it's
What are we
shit, but
saying?
it's our shit. We claim this shit in the name of the FNAF fan base,
FNAF 2 is like Birmingham. It's shit, but it's our shit.
and it involves some people getting stabbed. But uh,
So quite accurate there. Ratings 2 out of 10.
um, for enjoyability, 6 out of 10. For actually the movie without the From like a objective point of view, like 4 out of 10.
But I think, to be fair, I always say, like, always factor in your enjoyment and your kind of personal,
I
like,
like to do
connection to it.
both.
Always factor it in, because it's important. Like, I don't devalue that because obviously you're a fan of the game. It's very much
Yes.
intended for you, so you definitely get more out of it from that perspective. So I wouldn't whenever like shut that out. But for me, I had a miserable time with the film, and here's the final crushing blow, right? I have seen nearly all of the Elvis movies, which are notoriously shit. They are
You're gonna make me
notoriously
go through
shit.
this again. Oh my God.
I told you I've got to tell them. I've got to tell them. But if I were to rank all 31 of the Elvis movies, which I'm nearly there, I've nearly finished all of them. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 would make the bottom five.
That's hard to hear.
That
That's hard to hear. Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
But
I'm sorry. I
no,
would
I
take
mean, I
Kissing
get it though.
Cousins
I
over
get
it.
it though. I get it though because the writing
Yeah,
leaves a lot to be desired. And on that basis, I do actually
fucking
want to
does.
briefly, I
It
want to
does.
briefly talk about a project I'm working on that I may be
Go for it.
exploring on my channel in the future. So
Go for it.
you've
What you
heard of the
got?
saying, "Anything you can do, I can do better."
Yes, I have. Yeah.
That is what I'm attempting to do with the FNAF franchise. I have been writing scripts adapting the games just because, why not?
Yeah, why does
And
this? Sorry, why does this remind? This remind me of like when people tried to like rewrite the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Why does it remind me of like Mr. L's going to try and rewrite the Last Jedi
But
next?
no, it's been something I wanted to do for a little bit. I've started with games
Hmm.
that they haven't done as movies yet, but I want to kind of like retell the franchise up till the end of the sixth game chronologically, coherently, lore accurately, with a few extra things of my own sprinkled in. And it's been a really fun little passion project. I'm hoping at some point to do some table reads with my guys. But as of today, I just finished my second script, which both of which I've
Brilliant.
written since the last time I saw you in person.
That's cool.
It's been quite speedy, but that's been a really fun little project.
Mhm.
The main problem with I find with the movies is that they really hold back on the horror and the dark stuff and the psychological layer that these games have. So instead, I want to dig into it. So I've been having a lot of fun
Uh,
with it. Might be doing something on the channel soon with that. Might be like reading through it or whatever. I've been drawing a lot lately as well, so I might try and like animate parts of it with drawings
mhm.
to bring that to life because there is so much to tell with this series, and it's a very pliable series. There's a rule in the fan base that Scott put out when he created the games. He said, "You can make anything you want in my series as long as you don't call it official. As long as you don't claim it's an official product, do whatever." There are countless stories, countless fan games out there. And so it's the kind of thing where you can just say, hey, why don't I take a crack at this? And so I'm really
For
excited to
yeah.
see where this goes. Because I've had a lot of very interesting ideas to play with it, a few interesting kind of like visual directions with some of them that some scenes
Mhm.
even I think you would find interesting the way I've got in my mind of how I would shoot some of them from a directorial point of view. But
Yeah,
it's an interesting
it's
little
definitely a
project.
yeah, it's definitely. I'm looking forward to hearing this. Like, this actually does, and obviously you've got this passion for it, so that'll definitely shine through either way. So I'm
I
looking
just
forward
don't
to
have
hearing
a
about this.
budget, but I've got the mind for it. But I've been
We
having a
can
lot of
write
fun
people.
writing it.
We can get a Kickstarter. We can get a Kickstarter page going.
I'll just reach out to the FNAF fan base, say, hey, any of you really good cosplayers with the amazing suits, can you just turn up and record a scene for us?
Yeah. Or just like,
Completely fan made.
yeah. Can you hang up a green screen in your garage and just film something there? That'd be
Yeah.
great.
But
And then you just CGI them instantly.
yeah, I am quite excited about this because I have been doing a lot of writing over the past month or so
Mhm.
of it. And
I'm
like I said,
aware.
two scripts down. I wrote one based on the newest game, Secret of the Mimic, because it becomes first in chronological order. And then the second script I wrote adapted 4, 2, and 5, the latter two partially, into kind of a story that has five parallel storylines running at the same time that are all intertwined.
Yeah.
It's very it's I'm trying to get the right level between convoluted and complex, but it's
Mhm.
very interesting. So I'm hoping to do something with that in the future. But I watched FNAF 2 and I was like, you know what, the writing left a lot
It's
to be
ass.
desired, and I thought,
That's
well,
putting it mildly 007.
I write a lot of stuff in my spare time anyway. Why not try and see what
Go
I
for
can
it.
make of it?
Yeah. Go for it.
Because
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing I could put out there. People might like it. So yeah, so I might do
I mean,
something
to be
with that
fair,
soon.
you remind me about like a lot of the because I've been like doing a lot of film writing, like writing scripts and a lot of like treatments and like story outlines for stuff. Some are uni projects, but some are not. Like some are totally disconnected. And I've even started working today as we're recording on one of them, which is a bit more like an
Mm,
experimental. I was telling you about this before we recorded, but
yes.
a bit more of like an experimental film that's going to be like shot in a very like unconventional way. That I'm really excited to like, I'm really excited to like share these projects once they're done,
Yeah.
and we'll definitely like talk about them on the podcast
Mm.
and whatnot. That'd be great.
But that said,
But yeah, that's
I'd love to get you to play the games with me someday.
yeah.
Just
I
like the
don't
first
honestly I
six,
would.
just like the good six. They're
I'd be
very
happy to do that. Yeah,
simple and they're not hard to play. You point and click stuff, but it's
yeah.
very basic gameplay. They were made on like really tight budget. I think the first game was made for $100. Which
Jesus,
for the amount of money it's made is probably the most insane turnover ever.
you
But
could get a sandwich with that much money.
but yeah, no, I think it'd be really interesting because I'd be interested to see how you approach it because I approached
Hmm.
it by learning the AI and the movements of every single character to make sure I was so good I wouldn't get jump scared because I'm terrified.
Yeah, we know, we know that now. We know
Yeah,
that
you,
you're
you
terrified of.
you've seen some of the clips.
Oh yes, I have.
That FNAF 4 one is still haunts me. It's been almost 2 years and that FNAF 4 jump scare still haunts me.
Forever love that clip. But that's everything for FNAF 2.
Yeah, now in a
Shrek for
complete
part
turn
2.
of a complete change of attitude, let's go to
I
thought-provoking films.
I really needed this after this brain rot session because God, because like yeah, but yeah, let's go for it.
Welcome to part three, in which we're going to be talking about thought-provoking films.
Yeah, and we can kind of link it to New Year because obviously New Year, New Year's resolutions. You reflect on the past year, you think about it, where you are and where you want to go in the future. And I think I've definitely done that. Um, just
Do
like
you
in my own life with the New Year.
do you have any goals for the new year?
I never set like New Year's resolutions in that sort of sense, but I suppose my main goal is always like to carry on with where I'm at. Is to just keep going, keep achieving new things. Particularly like whether it's like film stuff, like uni, passing, and all that sort of stuff. With work and real life, all that kind of kind of always improving and whatnot. With film, sorry, and drama theatre stuff. Constantly trying to do new things and trying to go further and push yourself out into new territory. Those are definitely things that as well as goals, but I don't have like strict resolutions as such. It's more just to keep on going and just to keep on working hard and just to keep on improving and doing better in life. Are you the same, or have you got anything in particular?
Um, so I don't usually care too much for this kind of thing. But I have one goal this year, one and
Yeah.
one only. So, as you know, I love riding roller coasters. I've ridden 72 different roller coasters in my life. I want to be up to 100 by the end of the year.
Oh, okay.
So
That's
I want to
that's a fair
find
goal.
28 new roller coasters to ride this year. This is easily doable. If I go to California, Magic Mountain's got about 18 of them. At some point, I'm going
That
to
ticks
abduct my
off.
friend Alex and go up to Flamingo Land in
Don't mind.
Yorkshire. I've got like five or six
Yorkshire,
there.
man.
I want to
Give
go
me
to
Yorkshire, man.
Germany. Germany's got about three different theme parks. Spain's got about two different ones. France has got two. There's so much I could do this year. I'm gonna try and take
Yeah.
more short holidays, weekends to Europe, hit a theme
Mhm.
park each time, easily
Okay,
attainable.
Robert.
That's my okay, Robert.
The little in joke for the play. Anyway, so let's crack on with the with them. Shall I? Who wants to start? Shall I start? Or...
um, After you, my fine fellow.
Okay, my fine fellow. Okay, I will start with. I'll start with the film that I. This is the one that I've known about the longest. I've watched this film nearly 4 years ago now. I've rewatched it since, obviously, but this one that's really stuck with me over the years, and I think I might have mentioned it a few times briefly. Train Spotting.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, Danny Boyle film, obviously, who did 28 Days and Years Later. This is one of his early films and also stars young Hugh McGregor as Mark Renton and also some other actors like Robert Carlyle, Kelly MacDonald at like some early points in their career. But yeah, Trainspotting 1996 is set in the drug scene in Edinburgh, kind of contemporary of that time, and it follows the life of Mark Renton, who is a heroin addict, and you've also got his, kind of quite eccentric group of friends. You've got Spud, who is such a lovable sweetheart, but he's always like in the wrong. You've got Begbie, played by Carlisle, who is an absolute savage. Like he's such a horrible bastard. You've got Sick Boy, Johnny Lee Miller. They're kind of the core four of the group. And it's very much a story of like, Renton trying to break away from this lifestyle and like sober up and start clean. And I think it's a really thought-provoking film. I had to study this film in my A-level film studies as part of my British film two-stream. It was this and Shaun of the Dead that we looked at. And this I really enjoyed studying because it is obviously a more contemporary film, a more grounded film about like, that drug scene. And obviously it's very much the environment of the film is a reaction to a lot of like Margaret Thatcher's Britain and the kind of the poverty that a lot of people were put into at that time, especially like up in Scotland and whatnot. You have a lot of that. Obviously, explores like the whole drug scene and what that does to people and whatnot. The kind of and there's also like the kind of 90s nostalgia of like the whole nightlife and clubbing and all like the sort of 90s dance music. Like you got Pulp in there. You've got Blur. Not like kind of Britpop sort of stuff. You've got a lot of that. It's a very a film of the era, and I love seeing it as a time capsule of that era. But I think what's really thought-provoking about it, as I said, it's a story of Renton trying to break free from his kind of toxic. That's the thing. It's overall a film about toxic lifestyles and breaking away from that. That could involve poverty, could involve drugs, it could involve anything like that. But I think it's a story that even if you're not in that sort of scene, if you're not living in that, anybody can relate to that. And I've definitely related to that in terms of like, realizing that you've got an unhealthy group of friends and breaking away from that and actually making steps to break away from that. And I remember watching this when I rewatched it for my class, actually, at a time when I was realizing the cracks in my friend group who they weren't benefiting me. I'm not saying that obviously it's not like they've got to benefit me or it's always a mutual thing. And I was trying to like do everything and they were just not the friends you wanted to be around. They were ultimately like, the losers that, these guys are to a degree, but just a bit less aggressive in my case. And it was just like taking those steps to kind of like, break away and actually taking those steps to move forward and beyond them. And this film and Renton's character always sort of popped in my mind regarding that sort of time. And so for me, I found it very valuable and very kind of thought-provoking in that sense. But the film as well, it can be quite gritty and quite hard-hitting, but also really funny. Like as I said, there's some great bits of humor. It's a very fast-paced film, great editing and whatnot, great humorous editing. Like in the opening credits, they have like these screenshots of all the characters. It's quite iconic. Set to the Iggy Pop song "Lost for Life." That's the opening. It's a brilliant sequence. You've got some really like weird surreal imagery, like there's a bit where Renton tries to take some like suppositories, but they're in the toilet, so he has to go into the toilet, and it goes inside, and then it cuts like him in like this like ocean, and it's such a weird, trippy scene, but it's the way you capture the feeling of being on drugs, and I don't know, a very vivid film, very fun, but also very hard hitting and very, for me, quite powerful and quite resonant in that way. Even if I don't necessarily relate to these character struggles specifically, I think it connects with me still. But that's why I find Trainspotting quite thought provoking.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's one you've mentioned quite a few times.
Yeah,
So
it
I
is a real
figured it
fate. It's a
might come
proper.
up at some point in a part
Yeah,
three.
yeah. I was thinking like how will I incorporate this into a part three, but I think this is appropriate for that because I say with this part three specifically, I'm very much going for films that have had an impact on me personally and that I really connect with. It might not be specifically like an objective thing. It's just purely how the films made me feel and how they connected with me. And obviously, as I said, this one, it's been a favorite for a long time now, and I've always loved it. And it's so grown and grown in my mind, I think. Yeah, it's definitely one of those that when you think about it more, it grows on you. I think that's for me what
Yeah.
this is anyway. Yeah. So yeah, and I would actually recommend it to you. And obviously, it's like really cool seeing Hugh McGregor pre Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this was very much his breakout role, although he had appeared in Shallow Grave, which is Danny Boyle's previous film to this. But this was the one that really skyrocketed into to this the one that this proper like breakout performance. This was so yeah. But I'd absolutely recommend Trainspotting to anybody. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
But that's everything for Trainspotting for me. I think yeah, I really love it. But now to your first film of choice. I'm really curious to see what you're going to pick.
Yeah, I took you know this, but it took me a while to figure
Mhm.
out what I was gonna do. Um,
Yeah,
you know, I don't necessarily watch as many of the types of films that would be considered thought-provoking. I mean, I'm more keen to the big blockbuster action films and the
yeah.
comedies, whatever, and horror, and
Mhm.
so I had to really dig into my movie catalog. There was always one film I knew was going to come up, and I am going to save that to last. But I had a
Okay.
thought about the others, and I settled on thought-provoking is a very broad term, and it can be
Yeah,
the I think the emotional resonance that a movie can have on you leads to a lot of thoughts, and so
yeah. But like I say, it's very personal to you. Like
yeah,
ultimately, I can't change your mind on these as such.
and so that's
Um.
why I'm discussing The Whale.
Oh, yeah. Dan Aronofsky.
I've
Okay,
mentioned
that's
this to you
interesting.
a few times. I've never
Yeah.
been able to work it into a part three before, but
Okay, that's an interesting one.
yes, The Whale, and I wanted to rewatch this before the podcast, but I've not seen it anywhere where you don't have to pay for it. The only time I've ever seen it is
Mhm.
on a plane. Because it's been a free movie on the airplanes to America. I've never been able to find it on streaming. Uh, I went to my dad this morning. I said I was going to watch it, but it's on rent or buy on Amazon, so I'm going to watch the other movie instead. And he said, "Oh, I thought it was
Yeah.
on there the other day." And it turns out like a week ago or so, it was on there for free, but now it's rent or buy.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I've never been able to catch it, so I haven't been able to rewatch it. So my memories aren't all that clear, but I remember a decent amount.
Mhm.
So the whale is about a morbidly obese English teacher who's stuck at home in like the last week of his life, and he's a teacher via Zoom and everything, and he tries to
Yeah.
reconnect with his estranged daughter. Um, what him? I don't want to say too much about the film because I want people to watch the film, and I don't want
Mhm.
them to know everything that's going on. But I think what it is that there's scenes towards the end that highlight the some things about people, and it was quite profound to me. So, a lot of English, if you might recall from English lessons, is just
Mhm.
bullshitting your way to answers that mark schemes and teachers want to hear.
Pretty
Uh,
much, yeah.
and so there's a scene in the movie where
Like
he
it's
realizes, yeah,
it's never about actually like oh what's your take from it
exactly.
and like
It's saying what they want to
admit
hear.
yeah admittedly some teachers have done that and I've been very lucky that there's been a couple of teachers over my time in like education who have encouraged that kind of look for things don't just go what the exam board and what the academic sort of curriculum is telling you actually be critical and think for yourself and look out for sources and like try and find your own answers in that sort of sense. But
Yeah,
it's not common. It's not common. I
no.
will, it's a very valid point to bring up. So that's quite interesting.
So towards the end of the film, like maybe two-thirds of the way through, um, the main character goes through a lot of emotions about the the shortness of life he has left. He and during one of his English lessons, he starts to point out that everything that people are writing is just complete bullshit, and that it's not what any of them actually think or care about. And so he says to all of them to go away and come back the next day and write something meaningful to them. It doesn't even have to be about the piece that they're working on, just write something meaningful. And a lot of the things that these kids started writing were really deep. But one that really stuck out to me was one of the kids wrote about the fact that they're realizing that life is going to be a lot more boring than they thought it was going to be, and that it's not going to be amazing. When you're a kid, you have all these dreams about all the amazing things you can do.
Yeah.
I want to be a teacher. I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an actor. Uh,
I want to be a
you end up.
helicopter.
You end up working
Yeah.
some boring office job, and life isn't all that
Hmm.
interesting. But he makes a point in this lesson where, and this is his final lesson with these kids, because the school aren't happy that he's just told them to fuck their writing and write something meaningful. He mentions about how people are amazing and that everyone has their own individuality and the way of understanding things like writing and coming to their own conclusions on how to interpret things, and that people should say more about what they feel. And
Hmm.
that I found there's something about that scene that just was really kind of powerful. That even like 2 years later now, three
Hmm.
years,
So,
3 years later, my memory of most of it just faded, and I want to watch it again, but I can't.
but
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 that
that sticks
stuck.
out.
That stuck, and the ending is stuck, and I can't go too deep on the ending, but the ending is.
Hmm.
It was one that when I finished it, I had to rewind and watch the ending again to make sure I truly
Yeah,
understood it because I wanted to
that is
understand it.
interesting.
Because this was such a profound movie that it was simplistic. It was all in one setting with like about four proper characters, five proper characters. You could tell it was adapted from a play. But
Yeah,
it
that's
was,
like a stage film to it.
yeah, like the whole thing took place in the one room, or in some
Feels very
occasion
inside number nine,
outside
that
the
is.
house. But yeah, but it was just the movie had so much kind of weight to it, and you could really feel the pain of Brendan Fraser's character, who I feel bad that I've
Mhm.
forgotten the name of because it's been so long. Again, I really wanted to
His
rewatch
name
it.
is Charlie. That's his name.
Charlie, that was it.
Just
And again,
I've
I
got the
really
letterbox up
wanted to
here.
rewatch it. I really wanted to, but I
Mhm.
just couldn't. There was nowhere to watch it. But it was you could really just see the pain in Charlie throughout the film. There's a scene
Mhm.
as well where in his despair there's a scene of him just eating and eating more and more food, and it's one of those things that's so hard to look at, but you don't look away because
Mhm.
it's his pain manifesting into something else.
Mhm.
And I know at certain points myself that I have turned to food at certain points, and back when about 10 years ago, I was quite large at the time, and lately I've been putting on some weight, but I understand that kind of I
Yeah.
understand that kind of reliance of turning to food, drink
Comfort.
consumption for comfort, and it's
Mhm.
something about that really kind of stayed. And so I wanted to talk about it
Mhm.
again. I really wanted to rewatch it so that I would
That's
actually
fair.
sound like I know what I'm talking about.
It's all
But
right. No, I think that the thing is, I get it because it's the things that have stuck with you over time that even if you've not watched it in a while, if it sticks with you
it's
like that, then it's
it's the
done
same
something right.
reasoning
So
for why I talked about Interstellar despite not having watched it in some
yeah.
7, 8 years, whatever. It was, I really want to talk about the whale, and I wanted to talk about it for ages, and it finally came, and I couldn't remember half of it.
Yeah,
But and
that's fair.
there was a lot of other layers to it as well. There was quite an interesting religious angle in this one as well, with a religious person coming to their door trying to preach to this man who knows that he's about to die,
Mhm.
and frankly couldn't give a shit. But
Oh,
there was
a
a
lot
lot of
there.
interesting things there. But I don't want to talk too much on the religious side because I've got a different movie to cover that with later. But
Okay, that's
um,
interesting.
but for
I'm
now,
really
we're
glad that you
focusing
brought up
more
the
on
whale.
kind of the main bit about the obese man relying on food, even though it's what's killing him.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
there's a layer to that, and there was it was such it really hit me when I watched it, and I desperately want to watch it again at some point.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought it up because it's a film that obviously when it came out, I wanted to watch it. Obviously, it was quite a big success. Like won Brendan Fraser his Oscar for his comeback performance.
Yeah,
But I've also seen quite mixed opinions on this film where I've seen people who really do not like this film. I've seen people comment on Fraser playing the obese man as potentially being a bit sort of a bit insensitive in a sense. And that's the thing. It's one of the things I'm not going to say whether I agree or not because I haven't seen it. I would rather watch the film and make my judgment for myself. But the point that you made about like the whole English lesson of writing something meaningful and what the kids genuinely think, that's what I've never heard talked about the film, and I'd love to watch it
like
purely for that scene
it's the
alone.
important message. Do something meaningful with your life. Don't just do what
Be
the
true to
mark
yourself.
scheme wants you to do. You know,
Yeah, be
write
true to yourself,
something.
you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Be true to yourself. But I don't find this
That's
portrayal of an obese person insensitive. But
mhm,
I could see why a lot of people don't like it. It's quite a dark story, all things
mhm.
considered, and some people might
And that is
not
Darren. That
like
is Darren. That
that
is Darren
level.
Aronofsky's films
Yeah,
all over. To be fair,
and so
but
it's
yeah,
not for
I want.
everyone.
Yeah, it's a quiet taste, but I definitely am interested in watching it because, as I say, I've heard a lot of mixed things about it, and the things that you've been saying. But as I say, not following what the mark scheme tells you, I had that a little bit with some of my uni projects where,
Mm,
to a lesser degree, but it's trying to like having to make really short films. It's like I want to try and do a little bit more with them and not just it's not just especially creative things, not just making things because it's for an exam or for a grade. It's because you want to make something to put out in the world and you want to make it to share and to connect with people. And that's genuinely valuable. And I really that's really interesting that this film kind of delves into that. So
yeah.
I will definitely check it out at some point.
It's not the
So
kind of film I would usually watch, but I watched it because it was Brendan Fraser's comeback, and I've stated before that I really loved The Mummy. And
yeah,
so, you know,
yeah,
I grew up watching Brendan Fraser on my TV or on loop, and I just thought, you know, he won an Oscar for this movie. I want to see it. I want to see
yeah,
if I want to see if it's good and if he deserved the a win. Because quite often
yeah.
I would question whether the best actor Oscar really deserved it over other people. And I watched this one, and it's like with one of the other movies I'm talking about today as well. It's a case of it's not a movie I would have watched, but it's an actor that I watch, and so I watched it, and it
Mhm.
exceeded anything I expected. And you know, it's
Yeah.
this movie and one of the other ones I went to has left such kind of an impact on my way of thinking. So I just, you know, it was a good chance to bring it up.
That's fair. I'm
uh,
glad that we
like
discussed it.
back over to
Back
you
to me.
now.
Back to me. So my next film, I'm going to go way back to the 1950s, as I always tend to do with these.
Yeah.
But this one really surprised me. So it's a Best Picture winner from 1955, a film called Marty, right? And I've realised that two of my three films are
Yeah.
Marty the title. But no, this one from 1955, just called Marty, right? So it's a very low key sort of slice of life drama. It's about this guy Marty. He's a butcher who lives in like the Bronx in America and whatnot. He's in like his sort of early 30s. He still lives with his mum. He's unmarried, but he's very socially awkward. But he's quite kind and good natured and whatnot. But he's always getting badgered by his family when he's going to get married, when he's going to start a family and whatnot, when he's going to get his own house, right? And in the film, he meets a school teacher who is deemed unattractive, but this is 1950s Hollywood. It's just the fact that she's got a few wrinkles and has less overdone makeup. Like she looks fine, okay? It's just 1950s Hollywood standard. Um, but they have a genuine emotional connection, and even though that's kind of sort of frowned upon by his family, they want to try and make it work. Now, why I find this fascinating, I watched this back in July, and I didn't really know what I was going to expect from it because it's not a particularly iconic film from the 50s, and compared to like other films that I've seen, it's not particularly well known. And for Best Picture winners, it's 90 minutes long, so the shortest Best Picture winner to date. And it's also like, compare that to like the sweeping epics and musicals, anything like Lawrence of Arabia, Ben-Hur, American in Paris, those kind of big budget films of the day that won Best Picture. This is the complete opposite of that. So I'm surprised this won. But this film, despite being over 70 years old, holds up so well. It really does. Because I say it highlights that whole thing of, by his age of like, in his early 30s, should have had a house, he should have a family, he should have kids and whatnot and whatnot. And he's often pressured by those around him to do that. Um, but what I think is really interesting about the film is that you show one of his siblings, I think it's his brother, who he has a wife, he's married, he has a house, and they've just had a baby. But it is very clear because of how frequently they argue, they stress, they have to go to their parents' house again and whatnot, that they didn't think it through. They just very much did it because it was expected of them. And because they just rushed into it, they didn't properly plan it. They are living a very unhappy life. They are not living how they should be. And that is incredibly valuable to have, I think, for 2026 viewers. I think, especially for our generation, young adults who are trying to, navigate the world. And these things, these are things that, me and friends and family, we've talked about. It's like, about having your own home, about getting married and whatnot, about, finding, it's about, it's about doing it when the time is right, not at an arbitrary point in your life, just because that's what's expected. Because that gets you in trouble. It gets you in debt, money wise. It makes you unhappy, and gives you an unhappy life. And I have wanted to talk about this film for so long because I think for a film this old, it holds up so well.
I think that's I think that's interesting points about the idea of doing something by an arbitrary date rather than
Yeah.
responsibly. I used to think like that. I used to say, I want to do this by this age, this by this age. I'm this year I'm turning 23, which is the age my dad was when I was born. Would you believe?
Really?
Yeah, and well, yeah, and I was thinking by now maybe I'd have met someone and I'd be somewhere down the line, but
Mm.
I can't afford to move out. My boss pays me a pittance for what I do,
Yeah.
and he doesn't watch the podcast, thankfully. Uh, but
Thank God.
when I was younger, I thought like that because I thought arbitrary. By this age, you've done school, you go to uni, you get a job, you move out, you find someone, you get married, you have children, and now I'm at a point where I don't see any of it as viable because it's not
Mhm.
responsible economically to do any of that.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
especially nowadays when the economy is as bad as it
Yeah.
is and only going to be getting worse because I mentioned before to you briefly in a discussion we had over drinks that the way the economy works is it's all kind of lags a little bit, about a year behind. So,
Yeah.
and as we
Yeah. We
know,
could
a
talk
lot
about
of
that. Yeah.
bad shit has happened in 2025. So we're going to see the effects of that this year. So the economy is not going to be getting better. And with the AI bubble and everything, we're probably set for economic failure at some point soon. So it's like you can't have these kind of thoughts of I need to go move out now. I need to go have an adult life with a family now because it's not
Mm.
really responsible, and it will lead to that kind of unhappiness that you have mentioned. So that
Yeah.
is
I love how the film
timely,
highlights
if
that with
anything.
that. It
It's
really is, and it surprised me with a film from the 1950s because we often talk about films that were kind of dated from
76,
then, but
70,
films
like three
70
quarters of
years,
a
71
century
years ago,
onwards. Yeah,
it's bonkers. Yeah, but I think it's important like to understand, as the film points out, it's only to do things when the time is right because everybody has a different story to tell, and everybody will have different circumstances as to why they're not at a certain point in life yet, and there shouldn't be a pressure to do that. It's not the case that because Marty's a very good-natured man. He works hard. He works at the butcher's. He cares for those around him. He's a hard worker, but it's just keep going at it, and it's not that he doesn't care because he does. It's just finding the right woman in this case that he actually has a connection with, you know, and stuff like that.
yeah,
And just it's just being secure in the decisions that you're going to make, and being absolutely certain. Um, because I mean, for me, it definitely that sort of feeling started during sixth form for me. Obviously, you finish your GCSEs, and then people at A level that's about like 16, 17 is when people start getting like part time work, getting inside drive, like learn to drive and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, I've always been the youngest in because I'm an August baby. I've always been the youngest in my year groups, so I've always kind of had that sort of feeling of being behind. And just because of like circumstance, it's just being a bit more unconventional sometimes. I sometimes very much felt like that, and as much as I try not to feel like that because I have come a long way since then. Um, it it's a tricky lesson to learn. It's a very tricky lesson to learn, and I think a film like Marty is very valuable in this day and age for people to remind themselves that to live life how you want to live it, and just to be absolutely sure of where you're going to go next.
yeah.
That got really fucking serious. I think that's probably the most serious we've ever got
It's not going
on
to
the.
get better. It's not going to get better for the rest of
Yeah.
this episode.
Oh Jesus.
It's
Oh
not going to
goddamn.
get better. We're
Goddamn
going to
it.
end on a real doozy,
Oh crikey.
but
But yeah.
yeah. Should
But like as I said with Train to Spotting, it's also a good film to watch. Like it's fun. It's got good acting, great acting. Just it's a very charming little film as well. So it's not depressing. It's just a very charming little film, but also has so much thought in that sort of sense that really surprised me. So
Mm.
absolutely recommend Marty. Go and check it out because it's so good.
What did you watch it on?
I watched it on Prime. I don't think it's on there anymore, but I can check.
Ah, okay.
Because if it is anywhere that you can watch it, please do.
I've got the house to
I
myself
cannot.
for about a week, so I could do with some movies to watch.
Yeah, fair enough. I can't see it. I can't see it on
It's a bit
any
off.
stream for now. But
Okay.
if it ever comes back onto anything, like I will absolutely like go watch it because it's
Yeah. I'm gonna keep an
fantastic.
eye on that then and see if it pops up on anything at any point.
Definitely.
Shall I do my next one?
Go for your next one.
Next one I rewatched this morning, in lieu of not being able to watch The Whale again. Because this is one I watched more recently. I did watch it last year, but I thought, well, if I can't watch The Whale again, I'll watch this again because I want to know what I'm talking about. And so I
Mhm.
watched this film. I'm going to test your memory a little bit. I'm going to take you
Okay.
back to the Mickey 17 episode.
Okay.
Part one. I told you on my
Yes.
way back from Florida I watched three movies on the plane. Two of them were
Is it
movies you
Heretic?
discussed in the Oscars, and one was Heretic. And so, yep, Heretic was indeed the film. And
Okay.
so I watched that again because this was my struggle with this topic. Pig and whale were the obvious ones for me. Oh, I've given it away. Pig. We knew Pig was coming for my third pick. You
Yeah.
knew, I
And
knew,
we also
the world knew. It's in the thumbnail.
oh yeah. And we also know that like Mighty Supreme was the one for me
Yeah.
as well. So
But Pig and Whale were obvious for me. I spent ages figuring my third one over. I figured out my third one, forgot my third one, and then re-remembered that it was going to be Heretic. And so we got Heretic. So Heretic, as I discussed briefly in part one of the Mickey 17 episode, which I believe was episode 9, um, or something, or 11. It was one of those. It was one for Minecraft. So I discussed in this episode, I think it was 9, that it's about these two Mormon missionary girls who go door to door to try and sell their religion, and they wind up at the door of Hugh Grant. And Hugh plays this really, like, disturbingly welcoming character, and again, his acting is phenomenal in this film.
mhm. I heard a
Absolutely
lot of great things
amazing.
about his performance.
All three acting performances here are good, but Hugh is a step up. He is amazing in this movie, and he challenges these two girls' entire perspective of what they stand for, what they believe in, what religion is as a whole, what God is, what the one true religion is. He throws so many philosophical questions out about the way that humanity has structured its belief systems throughout time that is just such a fascinating watch even before you get to the horror and suspense of it. Like before anything else, it is a philosophical movie. And there's a scene I really enjoyed in this, and most of the reason I picked these movies is because there are specific scenes that stood out.
Yeah.
In Whale, it was the scene about the English. In this movie, it's a scene about Monopoly,
Oh wow.
the board game.
Does the Monopoly Man come along?
No. But
Oh, God
I don't
damn
want
it.
to spoil too much in the movie because I want people to watch these movies. But I'm going to talk about the scene. It's about in the middle of the movie, and the two girls have gone through into a different room to try and find an exit because the front door won't open. And they walk into a room that's sort of like a library, but sort of presented like a church in itself, which is sort of
Mhm.
symbolic. And he comes in, Hugh Grant comes in, and he plops down Monopoly on the table, the original version of Monopoly, and asks if they've played it. And he said, and everyone's played Monopoly, right? Billions of people have played Monopoly. Maybe only a fraction of people have actually finished Monopoly. Sound familiar? Places down the
Hmm.
Holy Bible. Billions of people have probably read it. How many have read it start to finish? A fraction of that. And he says, this is the most popular rendition of the game. Here's Monopoly. And here's the most popular rendition of religion, Christianity, the Holy Bible.
Hmm.
Here's the original version of Monopoly, the property game, invented by a feminist of the time who never really got the credit due for the property game. It has all the same makings of Monopoly: the board, the free parking, go, jail, properties that you buy. You get penalties if you land on properties. There are fee spaces. All the same makings of Monopoly, but and this is equated to the Jewish book, the Old Testament. And the idea is that the idea of Monopoly was stolen from the property game by someone else who sold it to the Parker brothers to make Monopoly. This guy became the world's first millionaire games designer, and the feminist who made the original property game faded into obscurity. But because Monopoly was more popular, and so more people followed Monopoly. Meanwhile, in the movie, it cites that maybe about 2% of people are actually Jewish, whereas Christianity is the top faith in the Western world. I can't speak for
Mhm.
worldwide because I know Islam has grown a lot in recent times, so I'm
Yeah.
unsure. But in the Western world, Christianity is very much still the prominent religion. It then goes on to present to you the newer edition that has gained its own following in the Quran and Monopoly Ultimate Banking. And then it presents, and then he asks the kids for their Book of Mormon, and so he takes the Book of Mormon and says, and here you have your zany regional spin-off edition, Bob Ross Monopoly. And everything in here is supposed to represent the iterations of Monopoly, the iterations of the belief system of the monotheistic Abrahamic religion, is that you're all working with the same source material, and every iteration dilutes and repeats the same thing over and over until it starts to become a different thing. And that it's all
Mhm.
stemming from the same thing, but everyone claims to be the true original. He
It's like
then,
that whole like philosoph. It's like the whole philosophical thing of like if you replace the handle, if you replace the brush, is it the same broom? That whole kind of
yeah,
thing.
he then
There's
goes
only
on
falls and horses
to
clip. Where it's just, but yeah.
he
Do
then
you know
goes
the one
on
I'm
to
on about? How
punctuate
could
this
yeah.
with another point that while this was playing, a song was playing, and I can't remember what the song was called. It was quite an old one that I hadn't heard of before. And
I might know it.
he asked the kids, "Do you know this song? Have you ever heard it before?" And the kids are like, "No, they don't know it." And he says, "Well, you probably have because you've probably heard the song Creep by Radiohead." Now, Radiohead was sued by the artist of this original song for using the exact same melody and rhythm. Now, if you don't know Creep, you might know, and I don't remember what the song was called. It was another song by Lana Del Rey that uses the exact same melody and rhythm of Creep. And so Radiohead sued them. Because to everyone, all the different people will think that their song is the original version of that melody, when in fact, it came from somewhere previous. It was iterations. And it's all to
Mhm.
punctuate the idea of iterations and the idea that everything has spawned from another idea that someone else has taken, repackaged, sold as their own with new features. And that's very much, in the sense, what it's saying the Book of Mormon is repackaged Christianity with new features. The revelations that, what's his name? Joseph Smith, I think, found that benefited him a coincidentally high amount. It's
Mhm.
the idea that everything is just repeated and sold to you as the latest product, and that the religion that these kids are going door to door selling, it is no different to just the capitalistic nature of selling the latest version of this board game. It prompts a lot of interesting thoughts, and these are more explored in later scenes as they delve closer and closer to Hugh trying to get the missionaries to answer what the one true religion is. And I won't spoil that part. That's the crux of the movie, is the is reaching what the one true religion in Hugh's mind is. But so I won't spoil that much. But I thought it just laid out some very interesting groundwork here with this iterations idea. Because they are all very similar. They come from the same thing. They're repackaged, they're resold with new ideas, add ons. To give a more up to date idea, I would sell it as, here's a video game. Here's the same one on the Nintendo Switch 2 with DLC. So you want this one.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
another few consoles down the line, I'm going to say, here's the remastered version of this game, now featuring new funky mode.
It's always it's the hot new thing. Yeah.
You just
It is an
repackage it
interesting.
and you resell it, and people will buy it.
It's an interesting idea that I definitely like. As I say, even if it's not strictly religion, can cover kind of all bases in a sense, which I think is
Yeah.
very interesting.
There was so much to think about with the movie, and there's only so much I want to talk about because, like, with part three, we don't always tend to go as full on with spoilers as we do with part two, because I want to leave room for people to go watch the movie. I don't want to tell them the movie because then they'll go, "I know the movie. Why would I watch it?"
Yeah.
You know. So I want to talk about
Exactly. Yeah.
that scene because that scene plays a lot on me because I've had a lot of run-ins with religion in my life, and I've
Mhm.
had a lot of grappling to do with religion, the nature of it, what's real, what isn't, and
It is an interesting subject. I always find
it
it
is,
is
yeah.
fascinating to me.
And
But I
without
will
getting too
definitely check
deep
out.
on that,
I will
though,
definitely. Oh, sorry.
yeah, without getting too deep on that, though, because we don't want to alienate
Yeah.
viewers by saying your
Yeah.
way's right, your way's wrong. But I think it
Yeah. We're not.
offers a
No, we're
lot of
not doing that.
interesting perspectives, whether
Yeah.
right or wrong, to make you rethink
Hmm.
what you believe to be reality. It's
Hmm.
an interesting film. It's worth a watch.
I will definitely give Heretic a watch. And I will say the film I almost went with was Scorsese's The King of Comedy. I almost went with that film,
Okay.
but I watched Marty Supreme. That's basically what I call Scorsese, Marty Supreme. But yeah, but I watched that. Obviously, that came out recently. Timothy Chalamet's new film, directed by Josh Safdie, who is one half of the Safdie brothers directing duo, and it's a loose biopic of the famous table tennis player Marty Mauser. I know Marty Mauser is Chalamet's character. I think they've changed the name slightly, but yeah, it's a loose biopic on a famous table tennis player. Can't get my words out. Set in 1950s New York, and it is very much, he's a young man who is ambitious to just get to the top and doesn't care what the cost is. But that very much bites him in the arse throughout a lot of like the second and third acts of the film. Now, as I said earlier, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to go and see this film because, as I said, you know, the Safdie brothers, Benny did The Smashing Machine recently with The Rock, and that as they got quite middling reviews, kind of is from what I heard was a lot of like good performances, but a lot of what you expect from biopics like that, a lot of sports dramas like that. It's kind of a lot of what you expect, and I was thinking, do I really want to see another one like it? Because they've also done a lot of films together. They did Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler, and I talked about that.
That's where I've
So
heard that. Okay.
yeah, yeah, that's what they did. They did that, and you're not quite sure like is it going to be as good. This Mighty Supreme is very much in the Uncut Gems mold of this kind of very frenetic, frantic, fast-paced, gritty, intense film. That Mighty Supreme is this like fast-talking guy who's trying to like con everyone. He's trying to get himself into these situations, but ultimately he doesn't think. He's just living in the moment. He doesn't think. He doesn't think far ahead, and it gets him into all these mishaps. And I don't want to spoil the film because I really think you need to, obviously it's a new film, and we don't really talk about new films in the classic movie section, but I kind of want to make an
Oh,
exception.
yeah.
A bit like I did when Nora came out. I sort of spotlighted that, and then it ended up winning Best Picture. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is going to be an awards contender. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I think Chalamet gives his best performance to date, where there are times when you genuinely forget that it's him. You genuinely forget that he is you just get lost in that character that he plays, and it's the perfect balance of it pushes him as an actor, but he also plays into some of the charm and sort of the young charisma that he already has, and he plays a perfect blend of that. You've got Gwyneth Paltrow in this film, which is quite weird seeing her in a film because she's not really acted in a lot since the Infinity Saga
Yeah, I don't
ended.
think I've seen her in anything since
I
Endgame.
think, I think this is the first thing I've seen her in since Endgame, really. So that was really cool to see. Um, But it's just such a fast-paced film. I say for a film that's like 2.5 hours, doesn't feel at all. The editing, it's so kinetic and so fast-paced. A bit like Uncut Gems, but for me, a lot better. I don't know. I just preferred it. I love a lot of the cinematography, like some of the slightly zoomings and some of like, especially some of the table tennis matches are really well shot. The music is really interesting because even though it's set in the 1950s, they use a lot of like 80s synth new wave songs in the soundtrack. So you've got Forever Young by Alphaville in like the opening credits. You've got Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears of Fears in the end credits. You've got a lot of that throughout the film, and it's something that shouldn't work but does. And for me, what I took from that, it's the sort of tone of a lot of those songs are quite melancholic and um, a bit out there and a bit kind of like there's a lot of like complicated emotions like from those songs. The tone of those songs can be a bit like melancholic in that sense, and it very much reflects and sometimes quite intense and gritty, and that very much reflects Marty as a character, who's is driven and but very complicated man as well. And I love the fact they don't just use like songs of the era of the 50s because I feel like that just wouldn't fit. I love the fact that you're kind of using songs later on in history, but almost how it true, songs that match the feelings of the youth of the time that really reflected that. And I was talking to somebody else about this point that they almost see that as a reflection of how ahead of his time Marty is, in a sense, trying to look, trying to really be the best that he can be, really trying to be ahead of his time in that way and be ahead of the game compared to his contemporaries. And I think that's a really interesting, like, really, it's a choice that shouldn't work but does. To quote Oppenheimer, it's paradoxical, and yes, it works. But yeah, and yeah, a lot like obviously the great production value with the 50 settings. It looks fantastic. Like the whole when he goes to Japan at the end of the film for the final match, it looks fantastic. And it's also really absurd at points, like really like darkly funny. Like there's some really bonkers set pieces when obviously his life goes out of control. He gets involved in like crime and gangsters. So it's a very unconventional sports film. But it's really interesting. And I think for me, why I've chosen it for the thought-provoking element of it is that, it's the ambitions of a young man. And as young men ourselves, we are ambitious. Like we have dreams that we want to achieve and whatnot. And it's trying to, it's seeing that reflected. It's like, because of his ambition, he becomes arrogant. He thinks he's better than anybody else. He swindles his way out of things just to get what he wants. And ultimately doesn't think about the consequences, and it comes crashing down in many ways, and it affects so many of those around him. And it is a very interesting sort of highlight and a good reminder and a good kind of reality check for people. It's like, don't be a dick, just because you might have ambition. Um, Understand where your limits are. And I think definitely for me, because, sometimes when I can be quite ambitious, um, it's important. I always try to remember, try to like alienate people around me, you know, and I think that's quite interesting. And then the final scene of the film, because also Marty has like a romance with another character, and obviously it's a conflict of his ambitions versus starting a life and settling down with her. He very much just at points just doesn't care about that, but ultimately does. And I'm not going to spoil what happens with it, but the ending scene is just there's something weirdly optimistic about it that even though he's done so much terrible shit, and it doesn't justify that, but it gives you that hope that maybe he can redeem himself, maybe he can settle down, and maybe he can do good. I just think it's really interesting, and for me, is the best film from 2025, even better
It,
than Sinners.
wow. Even better than
Yeah,
Sinners.
it gets the 5-star rating from me.
Wow.
And yeah, as I say, it really took me by surprise because I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did. But I was engrossed in it, and I was like, I can't pick fault with this.
Sometimes that's the
And
best
as I say,
things, though, is when you don't expect anything from it and it exceeds your expectations massively. Sometimes those are
absolutely,
the
yeah.
best movies.
God, yeah, that's happened with me a fair few times with certain films. But it just, yeah, absolutely would recommend it. And as I say, it was great to see a pretty packed cinema for this one. The people do want to watch, different things that aren't just superhero films or franchise films. I think that's the appetite is there, you
Yeah.
know, and it was really cool to see, Yeah, definitely go check it out. And I've loved seeing, yeah, I know a fair few people in my own life even people who aren't massively into movies, but they went to see this and they really liked it, which is quite cool.
Yeah.
So that's my sort of view on Mighty Supreme, and I just it again, even though I only saw it a few days ago, it definitely has stuck with me and has really connected with me. And I think the fact that I've not seen anything else since then, it kind of does help that.
Yeah.
Not intentionally, but just I haven't had a chance to. But I think that does help in a way.
Yeah.
Now we talk about Pig from
Pig.
not from Michael Aronofsky. Is that the director? Michael Sarnowski.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Sarkowski.
yeah,
Um,
and starring Nicolas Cage.
yeah, Nicolas Cage's 2021 film Pig, which I wholeheartedly believe was snubbed of Oscars awards. This movie is so underrated, insanely. I mean, because Cage, he obviously before COVID, he'd done a whole load of really bad B movies. He was just doing like four movies a year, just whatever got money. And then COVID hit, and then coming out of COVID, I think I don't know if this was before or after Willy's Wonderland. This may have been the first movie he made after COVID. It depends on when they filmed, when they released.
Yeah, true.
But I know this was one of the first films he made after COVID, which explains
Oh,
obviously why there's such a small cast. But
this was after Willy's Wonderland, just about.
or just about okay.
Yeah,
Both of which are
but
very
even still,
small, kind of indie films, independent studios and whatever. Nothing massive.
it's in that sort of time frame though.
But they're very different movies.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but Pig is a movie that, like with The Whale, I watched it because it's a Nick Cage film. The premise sells you like it's almost going to be like some sort of John Wick type of thing. A man loses his truffle pig and he goes on a journey to find the truffle pig. And you know, you think, okay, maybe is this going to be an action? Is this going to be what? So we watched it, and I swear it's the first movie that I have ever been speechless at upon conclusion. Normally I've got something to say, but with this movie, it finished and I just sat there and I thought about it for a while. And I didn't really talk about it with my parents because we were all watching it together. I didn't really talk about the movie to them afterwards. I just said, yeah, I enjoyed it. Because I didn't want to go into the full depth of why I enjoyed it so much. The movie, and I'm going to preface this with full spoiler warning. I can't talk about the depth of what this movie means and why I've brought it up in this subject without explaining the ending, so full spoiler warnings. Pig is served to us as a three-course movie. It is your starter, main course, and dessert acts 1, 2, and 3, all of which are named after different food dishes. The first act, rustic mushroom tart. The first act it establishes Cage as this recluse living in the woods with his truffle pig. His kind of flashy, egotistical buyer, Amir, comes in, takes the truffles, pays the guy, leaves. But then one night, the truffle pig gets stolen in the middle of the night, and Nick Cage gets beaten up by the people trying to steal the pig. So then Cage wakes up next morning, finds his buyer, and they go on a journey to try and find where the pig has gone. This journey takes Nick Cage's character Rob through kind of his entire past. Some of it gets a little trippy. At one point, they go to an underground fight club for chefs and waiters, because as it transpires, Rob's character is famously renowned chef Robin Feld, who went missing and kind of recluded himself. And so he goes to this underground fighting ring in exchange for information, allows himself to get beat up because he wants the info on where his pig is. He wants to fight his pig. The info leads him to a restaurant that's going to be starting selling truffles in the next winter menu. This brings us to Act 2, which is, I think it's Mom's French toast and deconstructed scallops. So this act sees Cage's character Rob and Amir, played by Alex Wolff. Oh, by the way, if there's ever anyone who's doubted whether Nick Cage and Alex Wolff can act, this movie disproves it with a shadow of a doubt, because they are both amazing in this movie. So it takes them to this restaurant where Amir and Rob go, and they order. They have these deconstructed scallops sent to their table, and he has to talk to the chef. Now, this is the scene I want to talk about mostly, because this scene is amazing. So in this scene, Cage asks to speak to the chef, and the chef comes out. And the chef turns out to be one of the cooks who used to work for Robin back in the day when he owned his restaurant. And it's interesting the way that Robin deconstructs the chef's entire life following that as if it's one of his dishes. And he makes this whole point about the fact that when the chef was fired by Robin, the chef said that he wanted to open a good old-fashioned British pub and serve the most basic pub grub ever. And instead, he's running this fancy-as-hell, pretentious food place called Eurydice, selling deconstructed scallops. And, you know, in Cage's character Robin, he was saying, this isn't you. This isn't what you wanted to do. This is not real. This is none of the people are real. The entire thing isn't real because he's not the chef isn't making a dish that is him. He's making what he thinks that the people want and what he thinks sells and what he thinks is, you know, noteworthy, not pub food. And he just the way he kind of inflects about the fact that the chef has not done what he wants to do with his life in the name of people who won't remember him, in the name of meals that do not present who he is. It's and the way that the chef just falls apart about this because his entire life has just been completely deconstructed in front of him. And Cage wraps it all up, linking it back to the fact that he wants to find this pig. And he says a quote, and it's the main quote listed on, I think, the cover of the DVD. And it's a quote that
Yeah.
has never left me, and I quote it quite often. And it's we don't get a lot of things to really care about.
That's the Letterbox tagline as well.
Yeah, there's something so deep in that after all of this that he's just said to the chef about how everything that he's just ignored everything he cares about in the favor of doing some stupid over the top dishes for rich clients. Cage is saying that he cares about this pig. He wants to find this pig, and that you don't get many things to care about. The pig is all he has. He wants to know where it is, and so the chef gives him the information of who's got the pig. And he goes on to the next stage of the adventure. But there's something about that one line. That one line I always think about because it is just so true.
I've got
I'm
chills.
I'm the kind of person who I surround myself with very small groups of people. I don't have a lot of people to care about. I have a few people. And so, if you think about it in that perspective of if you've got this one thing that you care about and that thing is gone, you would do anything, wouldn't you? You would go to an underground fight club and get beaten up for a minute flat for information. You would
Yeah.
absolutely battered, not even having time to fix stuff up. You would go and confront other people trying to find how to get back to that thing. And then and then Act Three. Act Three is where it kind of all comes together, and you know, if it was an action movie, this would be where the main characters would be getting all their guns together and getting all their
Mhm.
plans set out. Um, Rob and Amir are collecting ingredients and setting out recipes. As it transpires, the person who has Rob's pig is Amir's father, another seller to restaurants, and Amir's father does not get on well with Amir, mostly over the circumstances behind his mother. But Amir tells Rob a story about how his mom and dad were always falling out, but they went on a date night to Robin's restaurant, and they had this dish that was so amazing that they came home happy and they were just smiling and talking about how good the food was to kind of show how much Robin's meal meant to Amir's parents. And so they devise a plan because Amir's dad has the pig to recreate this meal for him that he had with his wife. And so they cook this meal and they present it to him, and the father gets emotional because it's believed earlier in the film that Amir's mom is dead. It transpires that's not the case. Amir's mom is being kept on life support, but is essentially dead. But he's keeping her alive, and so he gets all emotional about this meal that Robin had cooked up. And Robin comes into his office after and says, "I remember every meal I've ever cooked, every client I've cooked for, and that one meal, that poultry dish," and the Amir's dad feels bad about it because he then has to tell Robin the truth that he doesn't have the pig. The people he sent to steal the pig mishandled the pig, and that the pig was dead. And so you've got this silent frame of Cage's character dropping down and reacting to this knowledge, because, as it turns out, the pig was the only reminder Robin had left of his wife before she had died. And so, but the reason I have to talk about the ending is because after he finds out the pig has died, him and Amir go to a diner and have a brownie and a drink, and Robin says that if I'd never gone looking for her in my head, she would still be alive. And there's something to think about there. But then Amir says, but she wouldn't be. And I think there was just so much weight in that interaction when I was watching it yesterday of that idea that maybe you could have just convinced yourself it was okay, but the truth is it wasn't. And then Robin goes back to his cabin, agrees to continue selling truffles every Thursday to Emir. Because it turns out Robin didn't need the pig to find the truffles, he just loved the pig. And he goes back to his cabin, puts in a cassette, and it's a tape of his wife on his birthday, singing I think a Bruce Springsteen song to him, and then it ends there, and Cage is alone, and there's so much emotional depth to it, and I've left a few side notes out to give people a reason to still watch it, but
Yeah.
it's better experienced as the movie rather than as my summary. But it's just there was so much weight to the way it tackles loss and grief, and the way that Cage's character is attached to this pig because it's the only thing it has left because his wife is gone, and obviously that's why he left the chef scene, was because his wife had died, and the lengths he was willing to go to find the pig, not because he needed it for business as you would initially think, but because
He just loved it.
it was the only thing that he had in his life. And the way that his love for the pig and his wife, and them both being gone, the way it kind of just destroys him, it made me think a lot. And I've watched it a few times. I think I watched it in 2022, and I watched it in 2023, or it might have both been in 2023. And then I watched it again yesterday. Watching it again 3 years later made a lot of difference.
Well, that's the thing.
Changed a lot in
The
3 years. I
the film
interpreted a
is
lot of
exactly
things differently. Yeah, the
the film
film
will be
is, yeah,
exactly the same, but you've changed and you get more out of it, and that's happened. That happens with plenty of films.
yeah. And
We all see you'll always see it in a different light as you get older.
it is a really good film. It made me feel a lot of things, but it's again, it's criminal that it didn't get any sort of Academy Award nominations. It won a lot of other
Yes,
awards and got a lot of
mm,
other nominations, but it's an amazing film, and it's so I don't know, just I've never felt anything like when I watched it the first time, and
mhm. I think this is absolutely one that I think of all three of these, this is the one I'm looking forward to the most to checking out.
last I checked, I
Um,
think it's on Sky Cinema, but I've also got the
I
DVD.
will. It is on Netflix as well. I've checked.
Oh, it's on
So
Netflix, but
yeah, so a very
it's really
I
good.
want
It's
to.
really well made. And again, like I said, the initial impression is it's going to be some sort of John Wick type thing, and it just
Mhm.
so isn't. It is just so different, and if anything, it's the most restrained that Nick Cage has been in most of his roles, because normally he is very out there and exaggerative and physical, but a lot of this role he is so inwards.
Subdued.
Yeah, and unless the moment calls for it, he's really inwards of himself and like contained, and you could see always throughout the whole thing that there's this pain in him, and
Hmm.
and you can tell that he's the kind of person that that his character is the kind of person who loved so much and was still struggling with the aftermath of losing that, and
I
the
do
thought
think it's
of losing something else he cares about, the pig, is just soul crushing to him, and it's just I don't know why exactly lands so much for me over anything else, but it does, and I do really love this film. And
I will. I can make you a promise that I will watch this before next episode because I wanna I wanna see what I get from it because there's a yeah, it's a very hard hitting story just from your description of it. And I think just maybe not to the extent that this film is, because obviously film will always sort of heighten things and exaggerate things. But the best films always connect with you. You can still connect with them regardless of who the characters are, regardless of the scenario, the place that it is, whatever it is. You should always be able to connect with it in that way. And I think with everybody has been there. I could definitely say I have been there in that sense of like, even if it's like a very brief moment where you feel like you've lost everything, it can maybe like be for a day, it could be for an hour, you know, but when you feel like you have lost everything, it's horrible. That's horrible. Probably taking a drink. Is that? I think we
so
need that. I think you needed that.
it's it's interesting because the first times I watched it, I didn't understand all of the scenes, particularly this underground fighting scene that I mentioned, because it
Yeah,
just seemed really out of place and I didn't get it. But watching it now, I get it. Is the point is that he's willing to endure
all
being
this pain.
beaten up in the name of information to find what he cares about. And I get that more now because like I said, we've 3 years changes a lot, and
Definitely,
it's just like, well, wouldn't you do if for something you love, you know? Um,
precisely.
but yeah, it's a very good movie. It's the acting is great. The setting is great. It's quite low key. It feels quite a lot of it feels quite minimal and quite probably a lower budget. Um, but it's a very nice little film. It's just not at all what I expected from it, and I think watching it has changed a lot in my life. But yeah, it leaves a lot of questions for me about. It makes me think a lot about those kind of connections and love, and the weight that those have on someone, and and not to discredit Amir's side of the story, and the relationship he has between his dad and his mom is also quite interesting in this, but it's very much Cage that I'm clicking with in this, but not just because obviously I do really love Nick Cage films, but
Yeah,
because
he
of
is the star of it.
that
It's his
that
story, really.
it's very different kinds of connection that are being like explored between the two characters. He Amir's more got the family connections that are being explored, and Rob is we're exploring connections to loved ones, like wife, pig. Um, but that was clicked more with me, and it does make me question about how anyone would handle that sort of grief, and the things it does to people, and he just, I mean, obviously he recludes himself in the woods, for God's sake, but it's fascinating, and it's a reason I don't watch it very often, but every now and then I come back to it.
Yeah,
Just
I think it's
I
I
don't
think
think
it's
I
a
could
valuable.
do that to myself if I watched it too often.
I think it's a valuable film to watch, sort of sparingly in that
Mhm.
sense.
But because
Um,
I watched this before The Whale. This was like the first film that really kind of
Tapped into that feeling.
threw me for a loop. Really, it was just completely the unexpected, and I do love it for that.
Absolutely. That's that's like a absolutely valid reason to love it, and it's great to like I think finally because we've always mentioned Pig as like, one of your favorite Cage films, and it's really great to finally sort of in-depth discuss why it's so good. And as I say, I will watch it before next episode because in the part one next week, next month, I will like give my opinion on it, like we sometimes have done when we're like, oh, I've watched this film since we talked about it.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that's one of them. It possibly the best part three we've done. I think the
that was
longest one for
a
sure.
that was a very deep part three.
Yeah, but that's good. I think it's important to. I think it's important. That's the not to sound too wanky about it, but that's the power that film does hold. Like any good, not just film, but any good story. And I think film is just for me one of my favorite, or my favorite way of expressing that.
Yeah, it's certainly quite the tonal shift between part two and three today. Uh,
Mhm.
but
For sure. But yeah, that's the end of the episode, I believe.
that's the
Yeah,
end of the episode.
damn. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
wow.
thank you for watching,
Thanks for
everyone.
sticking
And it's
through all of that.
definitely is our longest episode, I think.
Gotta be,
Gotta be,
surely.
isn't it?
Gotta be. That was a
Yeah.
long part three. We needed
Yeah,
it though.
definitely.
These
Yeah.
were movies that we're supposed to talk about for a while. So,
Yeah. And like
that's
as I say, some of them like Pig, Marty, as well as I mentioned, some of these are films that we've wanted to discuss for a long time, and to get it all out there, and it's how they connect with us and purely, and that's the thing. The podcast should be quite an open and honest sort of platform to discuss these kind of things with film. So and why they connect with us. So yeah, um, I guess that means we'll now open the discussion to you guys. What do you think of FNAF 2 to start with? Um,
but yeah.
and I can't believe that's the 180-degree rule broken. But yeah, what do you think of FNAF 2? What do you think of any of the films that we've spotlighted in part three? And what are films that have really connected with you? But really be honest and like be kind of personal. It can be for any it can be for anything, for anything, like any reason that a film is connected with you. We love to hear it because the most personal the best, I think.
Oh, definitely.
And because no three films will be the same, you know.
Mm.
I mean, to be fair, the thing is, I could have done this. I could have done this spotlight with three other films. I could do this like whole thing again. To be fair, you know.
I couldn't.
So fair
I
enough. Yeah,
couldn't.
but yeah, that's the thing. It's just it's a great subject. So we want to hear from you guys. And until next time, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, share all around. And until our next episode, which is looking to possibly be 28 years later, the Bone Temple.
Maybe we'll see what happens.
That's what
That's the
I
likely
mean.
contender.
Yeah, but if anything else comes out, we'll see. But until next time, you take care and have a great day and look after yourselves.
Bye.
Bye bye.